Good morning, good morning, good morning. All right, so I see that Sarah Boone has a hearing, and I, I, I kind of thought there would be one today, but I wasn't sure, and so I decided to stream Leilani instead. So for those of you guys who are waiting to hear about what goes on with Boone, I will absolutely stream that tonight because I want to watch it too. And I want to watch it with all of you guys and talk about what's going on. They have not started yet in Leilani's trial, so we're kind of just chilling and waiting. Let me go listen in really quickly on what's going on with Boone and see what's what. Hold on a second. Um, Let me see. What am I doing? Pay attention, Jen. Like, get it together. Hold on. Um, let's see what's going on with those Sarah Boone. Mm-mm. Um, I just had it. Let's see. I mean, nothing's happening right now. We're looking at the clock. Nothing was, I rewound to see if anything was going on before. So I'm going to keep my eye on both. We're still waiting for court to begin in Leilani. Can you give me just a minute? My daughter's calling me. Hold on a second. All right. Sorry about that. When your daughter calls, you got to answer because, it's importante. So the court I will say that, hold on a second, that I do see also, um, I'm curious. I'm wondering where they are in the process of seating a jury. Hmm. Well, all right. Anyway, Thank you, Kellyanne, for becoming a member. I appreciate that, babe. Thank you for supporting me and the channel. Welcome to the ward. Okay. So let me add this to the stream. So we were over earlier on Alex Erickson's channel, and we were talking about, Danny Youngkin's testimony yesterday and how I was thinking, how I thought it went. And, I think that at this moment, currently, Danny Youngkin has the jury. Okay. And that I also think that here we go.
Superior Court is now in session.
Not a moment too soon.
Presiding, please be seated and come to order.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Okay, please bring out Ms. Simon.
Come on, Mr. Camera Person, swing it around. We want to see Leilani's outfit of the day. Is she wearing Motel 6's curtain line, shower curtain line, bedspread line, Mama's couch cover? What's up? Let's see. Or will we be surprised and she's wearing Mima's tablecloth today?
Right,
who knows?
We're on the record in SPCR 22-03364J6, the state of Georgia versus Leilani Marie Simon. The state is represented by AUSA Tim Dean, ADA Jenny Parker, and seated with them is Detective Marion Lemons. Let the record reflect that Ms. Simon is present with her counsel, Martin Hilliard and Robert Purse. Turning to the state, is the state ready to proceed?
State is ready, Your Honor.
Thank you. Is the defense ready to proceed?
Defense is ready, Judge.
Where we left off, the state had concluded its direct examination of Daniel Youngkin. And Mr. Hilliard, we're going to begin with the cross-examination of Daniel Youngkin.
I am, Judge, and I think I've got the technical issues worked out, but
I guess I was wrong.
technology is not my friend.
All right. Are you ready to proceed?
Yeah, technology and me are not your friend. Anyway, that's not the point. I guess I was wrong. I told you wrong. We are on cross-examination. Also, I need to if we're going to be commenting on the attire in the courtroom, just so we can get behind just a little bit so that when they go to break, we have a little cushion there. Apparently, the prosecutor has decided today not to dress. He looks like Superman and he's dressed like Johnny Cash. And the defense, on the other hand, is somewhat coordinated. We have a red tie and a red bow tie. Leilani is dressed in a black suit or jacket and pants and a cream colored top. So I don't know why everybody chose to wear black today. I don't know if that is I don't even know. It's kind of interesting to see that. All right. So let's get started with the cross-examination. They're going to call Daniel Youngkin to the stand. Apparently the defense has their own bit of audio that they want to present. So let's see where that goes.
The cross-examination. All right. Please call Daniel Youngkin. Or recall Daniel.
Thank you, Curious Christine. I appreciate that. That was very generous. Thank you very much. Thank you for supporting me in the channel.
Well, before we bring Mr. Youngkin in, let's call in the jury. I always leave off the very important people here. So let's call in the jury.
Yes, Your Honor. Also,
thank you, Mr. Purse.
I like the judge's glasses. and I am due for new glasses, so I think I'm going to be looking.
Okay.
I like the shape. I don't know if I'm going to do tortoise shell again. I think I might do black frames this time, but that's really neither here nor there. Basically, I'm just filling airtime until they start the cross-examination. Oh, my bad, Tess. Tess says he's a Disney prince, so his outfit is royal afternoon tea casual. My bad. I don't know. I expect him to say at any moment, "Hello, I'm Johnny Cash." That's just me. I don't know. The audio seems good to me. Is it not good to you guys? Y'all can't hear? Let me see what happens if I turn.
All right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Please have a seat. Good morning. All right, and thank you so much for being here all together and ready to go and on time. I just want to confirm that you are able to comply with the court's instructions. Okay, no one did any research or discuss the case with anyone? No. All right. Did any of you view any media? No. Okay. Looks like everybody has responded in the appropriate way. Thank you very much. I'm going to now turn to Mr. Hilliard.
Mr. Youngkin.
Please call Mr. Youngkin. Oath. And Mr. Youngkin, just to be clear, you do understand that you are under oath. You were sworn in yesterday and you remain under oath at this time for cross-examination.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you. Mr. Hilliard.
Mr. Youngkin, good morning. Since yesterday, have you spoken with anyone about the case or your testimony?
No.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to approach, if I could, the witness of State's Exhibit 9 and have you look at it real quick. You could just briefly state what that is.
The layout of the house
Okay.
on Buckhalter Road.
And if you would, just explain to the jury where the front door is. Is that the room that y'all lived in and slept in?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And if you would, how to explain where the front door is. We've seen pictures. Give me 1 second. I might can give you a better picture. I'm going to show you, it's already been tendered and admitted as State's Exhibit number 10. And picture 26 of State's Exhibit number 10. Is that the front door of 535 Buckhalter?
Yes, sir.
And is this, as you enter the doorway, a picture of the sofa to the left?
Yes, sir.
And the picture to the right is kind of over in the corner. It's the race car. That's where Zane slept.
Yes, sir.
And this is the TV.
Yes, sir.
And I assume there's a little chair in front of it, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that's the crib that Quentin slept in, correct?
Yes, sir. The playpen.
And that's the pictures of inside the crib, correct?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to go all the way back here. And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'm trying to understand the back part of the room we get to it. The back part of the room, as you walk in the door and look all the way to the back, is where the bed was, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And you have to walk past the bed in order to walk in and out the back door, the dining room. Let me rephrase that. Is this about where the bed's at in the back part of the house?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And this is where you have to walk through to get out through the dining room and living room, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, on the night of October 5th, were you sleeping in that bed?
Yes, sir.
And was Miss Simon sleeping in that bed with you?
At some point.
At some point. Okay. So, and again, not trying to put words in your mouth. The bed, in order to walk in and out the back dining room or living room door, you have to walk right by that bed, correct?
Yes, sir. You have to walk by it.
And it's in the back part of the room away from the children, correct?
Yes, sir. Towards the window in the corner.
Okay. And you say that's where you were sleeping, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. So it wasn't upstairs. It wasn't a different bedroom. It wasn't anything like that.
No, sir.
So, what time did you wake up on the morning of October 5th?
I would believe around right before I sent the text message to Miss Michelle.
And that was, and I'm not trying to put
5:18.
So 5:15, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And then you texted Miss Michelle, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And when you woke up and texted Miss Michelle, I assume you then left to go to work, correct?
I got ready and left. Yes, sir.
All right. And what did you drive on the way to work?
The Dodge Journey.
And I'm going to show you some pictures. Mark the State's Exhibit 11. If you would look through State's Exhibit 11. Is that the Dodge Journey that you drove?
Yes, sir.
All right, so you left and you went to work, clocked in around 6:10, 6:15, correct?
Yes, sir. Whatever time the clock kind of has me at. Yes, sir.
All right. Did you make any stops along the way?
No, sir.
All right. You see in there a curveball, a fireball, and a natural light container, correct? As well as an orange vest or some sort of color.
Fireball, Sprite, another shot, orange vest, natural light. Yep.
And were those yours?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And when did you deposit them there?
To be honest, I don't know.
But they're yours.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm going to assume on October 5th, the police seized the van, correct?
Yeah, it was in the parking, in the driveway.
Just kind of set up. Okay. But were those fair and accurate pictures of the van that morning?
Yes, sir.
So do you know what time you left the house?
Not precisely.
Okay. And where exactly is the warehouse you work in?
Port Wentworth.
So that time of morning, what's the drive like?
Pretty heavy traffic for the most part.
How long does it normally take you to get there?
20, 25
20,
minutes.
25 minutes? Okay. And I was curious, Mr. Dean played the video of you running in and then running out a short time later. What were you running in for?
I was probably a few minutes late.
You're already 10 or 15 minutes late though, weren't you?
I don't know to be precise. Whatever time his clock in was.
Whatever clock says is what it was, but you're already late, right?
Sure.
Okay. Now, you said that you and Miss Simon met in 2020, correct?
Somewhere along those lines.
Okay. And that was in Dunn, North Carolina?
In person. Yeah.
Right. And that was where you were at, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And she traveled up there. Y'all lived together for a minute, correct?
Absolutely.
How old are you, Mr. Youngkin? Today?
Today, I'm 30.
Okay. And how old you have been back then? 28, 27?
27, 26.
Okay. In 2020, you'd have been 26, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. In October of 2022, probably 28, 27, something like that.
Yeah.
All right. So When did you move back to Savannah?
I moved to Savannah. I didn't move back to Savannah.
Or when did you move to Savannah then?
4 or 5 months into her pregnancy.
All right. So when was Sky born? Then what year? What month?
June 5th,
2022. Am I correct? All right. So it would have
Yes,
been,
sir.
again, February, March of 2022. You moved down here maybe?
Sounds about right.
And you lived at 535 Buckhalter, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that was Billy and Thomas's house, right?
Yes, sir.
Did you pay any rent while you lived there?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you paid it to Billy and Thomas?
Cash app it to Billy.
Okay. And you lived there, and I'm just trying to recount it. When you first moved in, it was Joe that lived there, right?
Yes, sir. We lived upstairs.
Right. And it was you and Zane and Quentin and Leilani and Billy and Thomas and Joe, right?
Before Sky was born, yeah.
Right. And then Sky was born. And then if I just remember correctly, then Joe moved out and Paul moved in, correct?
Somewhere along those lines, yeah.
So around the summer of 2022, that's an accurate picture of who was residing in the house, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, is it safe to say that y'all both took care of these kids and took the kids back and forth to the babysitter?
For the most part, it was me.
So for the most part, it was you?
Yeah.
Okay. So on a daily basis, who was the one that would normally take them over to the babysitter?
Me.
All right. And how often would Leilani do it?
Rarely.
All right. So, and who would pick him up in the afternoon?
Me.
All right.
If she worked, then both of us. If she worked.
If she worked? Okay. And so it was not unusual that you were the one who took care of these children, correct?
Correct.
All right. And it's not uncommon that you were the one that interacted with the babysitter, correct?
Correct.
And now let's talk about how often would you drink?
Daily.
How often daily?
As I stated yesterday, about 5 shots of Fireball and 3 to 4 25-ounce beers.
Okay. And when did you normally drink? What was your routine?
Well, I couldn't leave work, so I'd go to work and I'd get off work and I'd stop by the liquor store in Port Wentworth on the way back to the house.
Okay. Did you ever stop by on the way to work?
No, they weren't open.
Did you ever drink before work?
They weren't open.
That's not the same question.
No,
Mr.
sir.
Youngkin. Okay, you can buy it ahead of time.
No, I drank to where there was nothing left.
So it's safe to say that your drinking habits were mostly after work and in the evenings.
Yeah,
And you, by your own admission, drank 4 or 5 Fireballs, and at least in this case, we knew a curveball and Natural Light. And then you said the 25 ounce, right?
yep.
Okay. And so now let's talk about the week leading up to October 5th. Were you and Leilani bickering or fighting that week?
Probably.
Okay. Let me ask a more refined question then. You said it was not unusual for her to go to Arkwright Road. Why is that?
For her to what?
Not unusual for, you said it was not unusual for her to go to Arkwright Road. Why was that?
To where?
Arkwright Road. 204.
Oh, no, not unusual.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this. After she had her wisdom teeth out on October 4th, did y'all go by 204 on the way home?
Possibly.
Possibly? Or
I don't remember.
You don't remember?
No.
All right. Well, do you recall saying that you did?
I said it was a possibility, or probably is. I mean, I know, I told you I went by the liquor store while she was at the dentist's office. So I had already drank at that point.
Well, what kind of drinker are you? Are you a blackout drinker or a pass out drinker?
Neither.
Okay. So you just said you didn't remember. You'd already been by the liquor store. I was wondering what going by the liquor store would have to do with affecting your memory.
I just don't have great memory. I used to do a lot of drugs.
All right. What kind of drugs did you used to do, Mr. Youngkin?
Cocaine and marijuana.
And let me ask this. In the weeks, days, and hours leading up to October 5th, were you doing cocaine, marijuana, and alcohol?
Not marijuana, but cocaine and alcohol, yes, sir.
And when were you doing cocaine and alcohol?
After work,
On a daily basis?
yeah.
So, a matter of fact, if you didn't drink and drug, it would have been unusual, correct?
Yeah.
All right. Now, when you did drink and drug, where did you normally do it at?
In the house.
Where at in the house?
On a dresser that was next to the bed,
All right. So you would do it in the room where the kids were.
unfortunately.
Okay. And I'm not trying to pry or anything, just asking. So whenever you, and there's different ways to do it. You can smoke cocaine,
No.
sniff cocaine, or you
Yes.
can shoot cocaine.
No.
How did you do cocaine?
Sniff.
So when you're doing that, wouldn't you have to explain how you would normally do that? How would you sniff the cocaine? What was your routine?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Okay, well, would you buy it,
Yeah,
or would you send Leilani to buy it?
I would buy it, or she would go buy it. I don't get
Okay,
it.
and did you have a dresser? You said the dresser that you put it on was in the bedroom.
Yeah,
Okay, would you leave it on the dresser? Would you put it on a plate? What would you do with it?
on the dresser, it would be in a bag, or sniff it out of the bag, or put a line on the dresser and sniff it off the dresser.
All right, so and that's kind of the point I'm getting to. It's either in the bag on the dresser and you sniff it from the bag.
The dresser is like this tall.
That's fine. I'm just asking. The point is it was out on the dresser in the bedroom where the children were. That's my point.
Sure.
Now, is cocaine more of a stimulant or more of a depressant? Does cocaine give you energy or does cocaine make you sleepy?
For me,
Yes.
sleepy, honestly.
And that's a fair assessment. So cocaine makes you sleepy. Does alcohol make you sleepy or energize you?
I kind of just evened out.
So in your case, cocaine made you sleepy and alcohol would give you a little bit of energy and it kind of evened you out.
Sure.
Now, when you did cocaine, would you also drink?
Yes.
Okay. And how much would you drink at that point in time?
I don't have an exact measurement.
Okay. Did you smoke at the same time?
No, I didn't smoke. I didn't smoke marijuana. I was not.
Cigarettes?
Cigarettes?
Yes.
Not often.
But when you did cocaine and drank, would you smoke cigarettes?
Sure.
Okay. And when you smoke cigarettes, would you smoke the cigarettes in the house or outside the house?
Outside.
Okay. Why was that?
So the house didn't smell like cigarettes?
And it wasn't your house, was it?
No, it wasn't.
Okay. And I'm going to assume, and again, I don't think you had permission to smoke in the house, did you?
No, sir.
And I'm fairly certain you didn't have permission to do cocaine in the house either, did you?
No, sir.
Now, so you're not sure if you went to 204 after she had her wisdom teeth out. Y'all came home. You stopped by Cheddar's on the way home, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Got something to eat, came home, and she took her medicine and knocked herself out, right?
Sure. I'm not 100% sure. I honestly can't say for certain. But I mean, yeah, that's my recollection of it.
All right. Well, let me ask you this. Y'all lived in this room, right?
For the most part,
Okay. It's an open room, correct?
yeah.
The bed's in that room, correct?
Yes, sir.
The entertainment for the children is in that room, correct?
Yes, sir.
The place the children sleep is in that room, correct?
Yes, sir.
If you were interacting with the children, laying down, watching TV, or doing any of these things in your room, and she was sleeping, you would notice it, correct?
More than likely, yeah. I mean, as I said yesterday, we were at a point to where I didn't really pay much attention to what she was doing.
Okay. Well, do you recall telling the police that she went to sleep that afternoon?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay. Any reason why you'd make that up?
No.
Okay. So, what time did she wake up that afternoon?
I don't remember.
All right. How did the kids get back from Michelle's that afternoon?
I believe we both went and picked them up
So, and what time was that?
around 4:30 or 5.
All right. Which is a normal time, right?
I guess. I mean, it's a couple hours later because we normally get off at like 2 or 3.
All right. So, 5 o'clock, Quentin's fine, Zane's fine, and Sky's fine, correct?
Yes, sir.
At 6 o'clock on the evening of October 4th, Quentin's fine, Zane's fine, and Sky's fine, correct?
Yes, sir.
What are you and Leilani doing at that point in time?
I don't remember.
Okay. 7 o'clock, are the children fine?
Yes, to my knowledge.
What are you and Leilani doing at 7 o'clock?
I can't say for certain.
8 o'clock, are the children fine?
Yeah, to my knowledge. Absolutely.
What are you and Leilani doing at 8 o'clock?
I can't be 100% certain. I was probably making dinner.
Okay. And 10 o'clock, the kids are laying down for bed, going to sleep at this point in time, correct?
Yeah. As
Zane's,
was I.
Zane's in his bed, correct?
Yes, sir.
Did you actually lay eyes on him?
I mean, he's visible.
Okay. Quentin's in his bed. Did you actually lay eyes on him?
He's not as visible, but yes.
Okay. And Sky's in her, I guess it's like crib or whatever it is, next to the couch, right? And you actually laid eyes on her as well, correct?
Yeah, she was at the end of the bed.
All right. So at 10 o'clock, kids are fine. You're there. Are you drinking or drugging at this point in time?
10 o'clock?
Yes.
No.
All right. And so at 10 o'clock, was there any conversation about going to 204 that night between you and Leilani?
Yeah, there's text messages.
And what was the nature of that conversation?
She said she was going to go to 204 and come back. I said, okay, can you make it quick?
All right.
I'd like to watch a movie and go to sleep so we can go to work.
All right. And that's basically what your text message said.
Yeah.
Come on back. See you soon.
Please,
Let's watch a movie, right?
please, yes.
So there was no, at least I'm not putting your words in my mouth. From the text messages, there didn't seem to be any animosity between y'all at that point in time, correct?
For the most part,
Yeah. You're just looking forward to laying down, watching a movie together, right?
for the most part.
And again, were you drinking or doing any drugs that night?
That night,
Yes.
you said 10 o'clock.
At that night, after this, anytime that night.
Prior to 10 o'clock, yeah, prior to when I laid down, yes.
Okay, what were you doing prior to 10 o'clock?
Drinking and the rest of the little bit of cocaine I had.
So you were drinking and doing cocaine up to 10 o'clock. And is that why you sent her to 204 to get some more?
I didn't send her to 10 to 204. She was the one who said she wanted to go to 204. That's in the text messages.
Okay. So let me ask you this. Who would normally get the drugs, you or her?
That were her people.
All right. And would y'all share drugs or
Yes.
would you keep it separate?
Share it for the most part.
All right. So if you got some cocaine or some weed or some
I didn't get weed.
Percocets,
I didn't get Percocet.
all right. But if you got cocaine, you'd share.
Yeah.
And if she got it, she'd share.
No.
No.
No, she was selfish.
Okay, so you would share drugs, but she wouldn't.
Yeah.
Did that cause any anger or animosity between you?
No, not really.
Okay.
Not for me.
Really? Okay. So whenever do you remember speaking with the police on October 5th? I believe it was an FBI agent and a detective from Chatham County Police Department.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you remember when they took you down to the station and interviewed you?
For a very long period of time.
Right. And do you remember that conversation with them?
There were quite a few.
Let's just start at the beginning then. Do you remember telling them there's nothing weird about her going to Arkwright Drive?
Yeah, sure. I mean, there's not anything weird about it.
And when Leilani got back from 204, were you awake or asleep?
I was asleep.
You remember telling them that you were awake when she got back?
No, I don't remember, to be 100% honest. I really don't.
All right. And do you remember telling them you got up at 3 to take care of Sky?
It's possible that I did.
Okay. And do you remember saying that everything was fine at that point in time?
Possibly.
Okay. Let me ask you this. Whenever you would come and go from the house, did you come through the front door or did you always drive around back and come in through the dining room or living room doors?
Never through the front door.
And that's because the parking's in the back, right?
Yes.
Okay. And it would not be unusual or uncommon that those doors are the ones that get all the movement, are they?
No, not uncommon.
Okay. And whose responsibility was it to lock those doors or secure those doors at night?
Everybody's? Whoever came in last.
Okay. But would it surprise you if those doors opened and closed a lot and weren't locked and stayed open?
Yes.
Okay. Would that be unusual?
Yes.
Okay. And do you remember going out, and again, you said you didn't smoke often, but would you go out on the patio to smoke when you did smoke?
The front or the back? It would depend.
Okay. But you would?
Sure.
Okay. Now, do you remember just a few minutes into the interview with the FBI agent, the Chatham County police officer, you got a little angry?
Possibly.
Remember saying it feels weird, I'm having a bad day, and
No.
well, it's been a long day, so. Do you remember telling them that you were a little antsy and you need a drink?
Probably.
Okay. Now, do you remember telling them that when you woke up at 3 a.m. that Leilani was asleep?
No. Well, if I did, then that's probably something she told me to say.
Okay. And remember telling them Quentin was okay at 3 o'clock?
Probably based on what she told me to say.
Mr. Youngkin, are you sitting here saying what you've been told to say?
Right now, no.
Okay. So you have free will, correct?
Absolutely.
All right. Now, let's talk about that first day as well. Was that the day that you authorized the FBI to tap your phone for 90 days? 30 days at a time, I guess I should say.
What day? The date started on, I think it was the 8th. I think it was 10/8, 2022.
October 8th. All right, well, I asked that question. Let's just go back. That day, October 5th, did y'all go back to Buckhalter Road that day?
I believe it was it was like 2 or 3 a.m.
Okay, so it was October 6th.
Yeah.
Okay. And when was it y'all went to the hotel?
The 7th, maybe? I don't know 100%.
But you had agreed to
Absolutely.
have the video done, the audio done, and then give them your phone done, correct?
The phone happened later, but yes, I did.
Okay. And you say the phone happened later. They didn't dump it that day, October 5th?
What do you mean? Oh, permission.
Extract it.
I thought you were talking about the 30 days at a time.
No. I'm talking about just actually giving them your phone.
Yeah, on the 5th, absolutely.
Right. Because I remember you asked on the 5th to get your phone back, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I did.
So,
And I got it back.
all right. So now, did you notice anything about Quentin's crib the evening of October 4th?
No.
Early morning hours of October 5th?
No. Not
Anything unusual about it?
No. I wasn't really looking at that point, but no.
Okay. And I wonder if I could approach the witness for 1 second. If you would look through that real quick. Don't say what it is, just look through it. It depends.
Okay. Okay.
Do you recognize any of these messages?
Yeah.
Okay. And what are these messages?
Text messages between me and Leilani.
Okay. And if you would turn to, I guess, the very back one, let's start in the back and kind of work forward. You see the one from September 30th at 8:04?
Yes.
Okay. This is about 5 days prior to Quentin's disappearance, is it not?
Yeah.
And it's from who to who?
From me to her.
All right. And if you would, what did you say to her that particular day?
Like, I'm always supposed to deal with your asshole moves and the mean ass kids when you get mad and dip and take shit from me.
What particular shit are you talking about here, Mr. Youngkin?
Money, drugs.
And which mean ass kids are you referring to here, Mr. Youngkin?
All three.
Well, Sky's an infant, so I'm
Yeah,
fairly
she was
certain.
being mean that day.
How can an infant be mean, Mr. Youngkin?
She wasn't being mean. She was just crying a lot.
Okay. So how would Quentin or Zane be mean? They're children. Mr. Youngkin.
Zane was a handful
How's that?
because he was always high energy and high strung and didn't want to go to sleep when we would say that. And I would be the one that would always deal with him.
Okay. All right, let's look at the next one. It looks like this one's just a few minutes later, September 30th at 8:47.
Yeah, I said, I'm such an idiot. I see it.
Now, you said a little bit more than that.
I am such a ducking idiot. I see it.
And you meant to say something else, but
Yeah, well, autocorrect.
all right, let's go on to the next one on September 30th at 8:46.
Yes.
That's from you to who?
These aren't in order.
No, they're not, admittedly.
I said, Still at 204, WTF taking so long?
What's that referring to?
Why was she still gone?
Well, what would she go to 204 for?
For herself, probably.
So,
Or us, both.
all right. Drugs, maybe?
Yeah, absolutely. That would be the only, to my knowledge.
And so you were a little irritated because she wasn't back with the drugs, weren't you? Mr. Youngkin?
I was just, no, it wasn't because she wasn't back with the drugs, because she wasn't back.
Okay. All right. Well, let's go on to the next one, if you would. September 30th at 9.
Yeah, and you fucking wonder why I'm just trying to drink, do drugs, and sleep.
And this was September 30th at 9 p.m.
Uh-huh. Yes, sir. Sorry. I apologize. Absolutely.
So, did that pretty much sum up what you were looking to do at that point in time in your life?
Yeah, honestly.
I'm going to ask it's not a flippant question, but at this point in time, you're a grown man, 28 years old.
Sure.
Just leave.
Just leave my daughter?
Mm-hmm.
No. No, sir.
All right. So you understand it's an option, though.
Not in my eyes.
So, but you would rather stay, drink, do drugs, and sleep.
I'd rather be there for my daughter.
Well, I understand. Let me ask you this: when you're drinking, doing drugs, and sleeping, how are you there for your daughter?
Not as well as I should have been.
No, not at all. Really, are you?
That's an opinion.
Is that your opinion?
That I could have done better, yes.
Now that's all the ones for September 30th. Let's look on October 1st. This is
Before we take a look at October 1st, or whatever he just said that I can't even remember now because he's annoyed me, I have to pause for fair use commentary. I totally lost my train of thought. What a waste of an interruption. I'm sorry, you guys. If it comes back to me, I'll find a better opportunity to interrupt. My bad.
4 days prior.
I remembered what I was going to say. Sorry, you guys. So what I was going to say is that the defense is going pretty hard at Danny. And, you know, what I see and hear from Danny is regret, remorse, guilt. And then the camera will pan over to Leilani. And I see in her face, she looks indignant. And I'm sure the jury sees it as well, though it's not evidence. The look on her face is not evidence. The evidence is the testimony. I can't help but comment on the fact that she looks absolutely indignant.
At 12:26 a.m. From,
Are you asking me to read all these?
well, I'm asking you, who's this from and who's it to?
What time?
The 12:26.
It's from her to me.
And what does it say?
You almost had your whole bag, and some of both of the bags that I had went and bought.
What bags is she referring to?
Cocaine, which was inaccurate.
So you went through both bags as well.
That's inaccurate.
It may be inaccurate, but that's what the text message says, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, it says you went through both bags of cocaine.
According to her.
Right. Well, let's go on to the next one that you sent back to her.
No bag, no love, no niceness.
Right. So basically, your mood was contingent upon the drugs that you had, correct?
That was inclusive with the no love, no niceness.
Okay. Let's go to 10/1/2022, 12:27 a.m. That was from who to who?
Her to me.
And what was this referencing?
Then And then expected, that's not in order. Says,
Look,
and
you're-
then expected me to come inside while you talk shit and share when you had a G yesterday.
What's a G?
A gram.
All right. So she's saying that she wasn't going to share because you had an entire gram to yourself. The day
Which
before.
is not true.
Okay. Look at the next text message from October 1st, 1:34, from you to Leilani.
Yeah. Can't come in and lay down at 2 a.m. Just go out and fuck around and don't ask me or tell me shit. Me referring to her leaving in the middle of the night and not saying anything.
Okay. You were upset, needless to say.
Well, yeah. At the time. Then I gave up.
So did it upset you whenever you noticed that she wasn't there in the middle of the night?
Occasionally. Most of the time I just accredited it to her doing whatever she wanted to do.
Let's look at the next one on 10/1 at 1:34. It looks like from Leilani to you.
You can go out and do what you want tomorrow night. And you said you wish you knew. Well, now you know.
And that's basically saying you can go do what you want tomorrow night, right?
From her, yeah.
Right.
Like I would do that.
Well, whether you did it or not,
I guess that's her giving me permission to leave the next night.
did you leave the next night?
Nope.
Right. And what was your reply back?
You know damn well I can't do shit.
Why is that?
Because I'm the one that takes care of the children.
Okay. And look at the next one from October 1st at 1:40.
Like I said, it's not in order, but yeah.
Is that to Leilani from you?
Yep.
And what does it say?
Bet it'll be 3 a.m. before I see you and no beer.
3 a.m. drinking beer?
Yeah.
Was that unusual or uncommon?
Depending on the day. If I didn't have to work the next day, probably not.
I just want you guys to know that I did catch Leilani saying something to her attorney, and the look on her face prior to whatever it is that she said to her attorney was not a good one. And so when they go to break, I'll go back and see if I can figure out what it is that she said to her attorney.
And this is later.
You want me to read this one?
October 1st at 2:19. Yes, sir.
But want me to be all over you when you run off at night like this and lie and don't respond.
And that has to do with withholding sexual attention, correct? I assume that's what it means.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
Well, you tell me. I'm assuming that's what you mean. You want me to be all over you when you run off at night like this. What does that mean?
Anything intimate.
Right. So,
Anything intimate, not just sexual, anything.
so that was withholding affection, correct? That's what you're threatening there.
That's what I'm threatening. I
That's what it
wasn't
sounds like.
threatening.
Okay.
That was me saying she wants that, but how am I supposed to do that when she does this?
Let's look at the next one from October 2nd. You may remember this, you may not remember this. But
Oh, I don't know what this is.
All right. And you see the picture there?
Vaguely.
All right. We'll go to the next one then. See if that helps.
I guess it's a haircut.
Were y'all talking about getting Quentin's haircut?
It wasn't my choice. I think.
Well, that's what at least Leilani was. That's from her to you, correct?
Yeah, I guess she was thinking about getting Quentin's haircut.
And that was on October 2nd, correct?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let's look at October 2nd that evening at 8:43.
Yes, sir. It's not my fault. I'm so sorry.
October 2nd at 8:43. That was from you to Leilani, correct?
Yep. Should have gotten Zane to chill or left me something before you tell me to fucking chill.
Left you what?
Some drugs.
Okay. And what was Zane doing that night?
Being high energy.
Wouldn't listen? basically being a kid.
If that's how you want to put it, yes, sir.
All right. And October 2nd at 8:56, you sent another text message to Leilani.
I want to know why I don't understand the context. I want to know why I wish I did, because I didn't get any when I even begged. I don't know.
Maybe you don't understand. You don't know what that's about.
No, I don't. Don't know the context.
All right. Let's look at the next one then and see if that helps put it in context.
It doesn't, but I want to tell me why it looks like you touched my bag from her to me.
Okay. And
Also incorrect.
so but put it in context, that may have been about drugs, correct?
Could have been, possibly.
I mean, counselor, I got to ask, like, much longer is this going to go on? I think that it's been well established that both Danny and Leilani were using cocaine. Okay. And quite honestly, couples who do illicit substances together, frequently one accuses the other one of doing more and it never being even. I mean, that's a common occurrence. And you've got 11 billion texts you're going through here that you're just now belaboring the point. Are you going to get to are you going to connect this to something? What are you doing?
All right. And let's go to October 3rd. This is the evening of October 3rd. I think this is the day before the wisdom tooth, if I'm not mistaken. This is 11:34 p.m. and it's from Leilani to you. And what does she say to you?
This is backwards, so it's kind of hard to get everything in context. And some of it's not even in order.
Well, that's fine. You can put it in order, but
I
what does it say?
don't have time. It says, so I've kind of been waiting for you at the same time, which is why I asked what you were doing. I do not know what that's referring to.
All right, well, that's fine. Let's go to the next one then. It's just an okay, right?
Yep. Just me saying okay.
And what's the next one?
Her saying, oh, I guess she was outside, sitting on the front porch.
All right.
I thought you said you was going to hit that line and come smoke a cig.
All right. If I hit that line, what does she mean by that?
What she had left on the dresser for me.
For you to do.
Yep.
And by do, I mean cocaine, correct?
Drugs, absolutely.
And this was about 11:30 at night, give or take.
11:33:47.
And let's look at the next one from her to you.
11:33:32.
Yeah.
Just put out my blunt and lit a cig.
All right. And the next one, 11. This one's kind of out of order.
I said, are you coming? As in, are you coming to bed?
Right.
At 11:32:19.
And let's go on to October 4th, which we kind of have a little bit about this already. There's one from October 4th at 10:41.
10:41:37. She said, I'm about to turn on 204.
And the next one,
I said at 10:44:24. Thank you for the little bit left. So sweet, no lie.
and what little bit left were you referring to?
Whatever she left me on the dresser.
Drugs.
Yep.
All right. So at least at that point in time, on the night of October 4th, you were at home with the children under the influence while she's out getting more drugs, correct?
Yes.
Okay. At any point, did you ever tell them this?
Yes.
When?
The interview?
Okay.
Initial interview?
All right. Well, let's go
It
ahead.
was a very long period of time, so I'm pretty sure I told him everything I knew.
All right. That being said,
Or could remember.
you were doing cocaine at least at 11 o'clock at night on October 4th. And
10:45.
10:45. 10:45.
And I probably did that and then fell asleep,
Because cocaine makes you sleepy.
as we've stated.
Okay. And you were drinking as well.
Probably the last beer I had left.
But when you went to sleep, Quentin was fine, Zane was fine, and Scott was fine, correct?
Yes, sir, at around 10:45, 11 o'clock.
So do you know what time Leilani got back that night?
Nope,
Do you remember telling the police that you were awake when she got in?
probably initially.
Okay. But you changed your story, didn't you?
Possibly, I don't know.
Okay. Well, if
I
I say,
stated based on memory and what I was recalling at the time.
well, if you say A is true and it turns out that B is true, they both can't be true, can they?
Depending.
Well, either you saw her and you were awake, or you were asleep when she got in.
Yeah, very true.
Right. Now, you got up at 3 a.m. to feed Sky, like you always did, you said,
Probably initially, that's probably what I said.
and you told them Quentin was fine, Zane was fine, and Sky was fine, correct?
Initially, I believe so.
Okay. And you also said you, of your own accord, called the babysitter and said the kids were staying home.
I texted her at 5:20 and
Sorry.
said the kids will be with her.
Excuse me, texted and said the kids were going to stay home with Leilani, right?
Yes,
Did you discuss this with Leilani?
she wouldn't wake up. But that was something that I had done in the past, because if she wasn't going to get up and go to work and I was going to go to work, then why am I paying for the babysitter?
So for you, you were a little bit angry she wouldn't wake up and go to work, right?
No, not really. I was just going to get my job done.
Mr. Youngkin, I have a few.
I may sound irritated at the moment, but no.
This line of this, the way that it's not the questions that he's asking so much as the tone in which he's asking them, in my opinion, anyway. And I'm sorry, but I do have to pause for commentary, fair use, you know, the drill. That's coming across poorly. You know, at the end of the day, whatever they might have been arguing about, whatever they might, at the end of the day, it was Danny who was taking care of the kids and going to work. And Leilani was, you know, running the streets, you know, hanging out with Red Craig, you know, doing whatever she wanted, whenever she wanted to do it. And I don't see how this is helpful in any way to your case, counselor. I don't think the jury is going to appreciate the tone, and I don't think this helps your client, because at the end of the day, when you think about it, let's say that you're trying to say, listen, he's the one that was home with the kids. He was, you know, on illicit substances. He'd been drinking. He was resentful of being left with the kids all of the time. At the end of the day, that doesn't really help your client, because quite frankly, she's the one that put him there. What you're saying is that he's an angry, irritated man, and she left her kids with him, with an angry, irritated man who's on drugs. How does that help your client? Oh, that's right. It doesn't.
Now let's talk about Azalea Mobile Home Park.
Okay.
Buckhalter Road, you have 3 different trash cans out there, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you're the one that collects those trash cans and takes them to the Azalea Mobile Home Park to dump. But that was your testimony to Mr. Dean?
Yeah, for the most part, I was, until
Okay.
Paul got there, and Paul was the one that had the keys to the truck, so Paul liked to take the trash out.
Well, I'm curious. Do they have trash collection out there?
We didn't at that residence. I don't know. That wasn't my house.
Well, it just seems a very odd thing that.
That's what I was told to do.
Okay. Well, who told you to do that?
I don't remember exactly, but that's just one of the things that happened. I don't understand.
So Paul, either you or Paul are the ones that took the trash off there.
Yes.
Okay.
In the Silverado,
Right.
never in the Dodge Journey.
You're absolutely correct. In the Silverado. But you don't know whether or not there was garbage collection on Buckhalter Road or when they collected garbage?
I don't believe they had a, I don't believe they paid for that service. I think it's something you have to pay for. I'm not 100% sure.
Do you know if the service is offered?
No, I don't.
Okay. Well, have you ever see garbage trucks up and down the road?
It
So
wasn't
it's
my
okay
house.
if you don't. Yeah, it's okay if you don't. But I mean,
No, it wasn't my house.
okay. You didn't pay attention to it, is what you're saying.
No, I just did what I was instructed.
Now, but you did agree to have the hotel room wired for 3 days, correct?
Yeah,
And
and my cell phone.
when did you leave Savannah after this?
I believe it was the day that I signed the paper for my cell phone to be tapped.
You left Savannah that day?
I believe so.
Okay. And that's when you moved away from Savannah?
I went and stayed in Atlanta for a weekend, and then I moved back with my parents.
So whatever day is on that particular item, that was the day you left Savannah.
I believe so. If not, it was the next day.
Did you have custody of Sky?
No, I wasn't even legitimized,
Do you have
and I was threatened multiple times that my daughter would be taken away from me by Leilani.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this. Do you have custody of Sky now?
No, I don't.
Who does?
Objection, Your Honor.
What's
What is the
wrong?
relevance?
What's wrong? That's all the questions I got.
In just a moment, Mr. Dean may have some further questions for you.
Sorry.
What do you guys think? I think my personal opinion is that I don't think the defense attorney got anywhere with Danny other than to establish that there was illicit substances being used in the home, a hell of a lot of dysfunction, and that the owners of the home did not pay for trash service. Now, I will say this. I lived for a very brief time in Georgia, and in Texas, wherever when you pay your water bill, your garbage is included with your water bill. However, apparently in Georgia, it's a completely separate utility. And I will tell you that getting that service established is quite difficult because they don't. The waste management company that served our area, you're supposed to email, blah blah blah. It's a hassle, and so but I did end up establishing it. It just took a minute. Now I think they were living at that address far longer than a minute. So whatever. But at the end of the day, they're trying to, I don't know if they're trying to draw some sort of a conclusion that the reason that there was trash from that home in that dumpster at the Azalea Trailer Park is because that's where they dumped their trash, which would be fine if that's all that was found in that dumpster. But we know that wasn't, that it was Quentin that was dumped in that dumpster and then later found in the landfill in the exact location, in the area during the grid search where during different days of the week or dump times, whatever it is, however you say it, that's where that specific dumpster, that specific truck that picked up that specific dumpster emptied the contents at the end of their trash collection day. So it does nothing, especially when they've established that it is the Silverado pickup truck that Danny used and Paul used to take trash from the home on Buckhalter Road to that specific dumpster. And on the day in question, it is Leilani's vehicle. So, them saying, so I think your Dietz is correct. They're trying to establish that he's the one who goes to the dumpster, that it's his responsibility. Okay. And therefore they're trying to draw an inference that if he's the one that frequents that dumpster, that he's likely the one who was frequenting that dumpster, and he's likely the one that was caught on the video. However, Danny contends that when he frequented the dumpster, he was driving a different vehicle, not right. And I get that. But I get that, Dietz. It's not about the vehicle. The point the defense is trying to make is that he goes to that spot. However, Danny is clarifying, yes, I do go to that spot but not in that vehicle. So I don't know. I don't think that they scored any points, in my opinion, with that testimony. All right, let's keep going.
I do have some redirect, Your Honor, but I need a break.
Okay.
So I suspect I'll be back.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, a good time to take a break. Let's take a 15-minute break, ladies and gentlemen.
They're going to take a break. And we're going to try to catch up. I don't think that the defense scored any points with that. I just don't. It didn't do anything for me. Especially, I guess the reason it didn't do anything for me is because of the other testimony surrounding that specific dumpster. And I'm hoping that the jury is drawing the same conclusions, because it's not just his testimony. Like, I don't know, if I was sitting on the jury, right? This is what I would be listening to. I'd be listening to all the testimony, just like the jury is, right? And I would be listening to, because the defense attorney wanted to talk about this dumpster so much, right? And who was at the dumpster, who frequented the dumpster. What I would then pay attention to is Danny's testimony about the dumpster, but I would also pay attention to all of the testimony surrounding that dumpster. That's when it would get serious. Like, that's what I would be paying attention to, because for me, it's the details, right? What happened that night? Not what happens every other night, because every other night doesn't matter. It matters what happened that night to me. But I think that for me personally, it didn't move me one way or the other. It doesn't make me like Danny more or like Danny less. It did nothing, the cross-examination. I still feel I'm still sitting pretty much in the same spot I was sitting yesterday. I find Danny to be a somewhat credible witness. I do think that there is a little bit of an issue surrounding some of the gaps in his memory. But I don't think that him saying I don't know or I don't remember is a lie. I think he's being honest when he says I don't know or I don't remember. I don't know how the jury is going to feel about that. How much of an issue the things that he can't remember are going to be for the jury. But overall, I think I find him to be, like I said, a pretty credible witness. We're still, if you really think about this, we're really, bruh, I'm over YouTube. Come on, man. We're really, really early into this trial. Okay. We still don't know. Why is it not playing after I push play? What is the problem here? We still, there's still so much more testimony for that we have to go through regarding many different things. I think that the the people that I feel sorry for and that I am worried about and that I have concern for are none of the adults in this situation, and that includes Danny. It's the children that my heart hurts for, because even if it seems there was just so much dysfunction in that home, and all of the dysfunction and arguments really, to me, feel like they're centered around, which is not uncommon, it's just sad. They're centered around the illicit substances. And, but that is how it is with, addicts. The addiction comes first, and everything else, if it comes at all, comes after. And it's sad. It breaks my heart to know that children were living in that environment. It's just so sad. I do think that there might be a tiny little point that the defense scored at the end with Danny, like as in the overall, his overall who he is as a person, when he was asked about the custody of his daughter and whether or not he has custody of his daughter, and he does not. And I'm glad that it wasn't allowed in who does, because I'm quite frankly, these children have been put through enough, and that doesn't need to be out there. But I do think that it will stick in the jury's mind that at the end of the day, as he says that he's changed, yet he still doesn't have custody. And I do think that I think that the jury is going to remember that. I don't know who has Sky, and I don't want to know. It's none of, personally for me, this is just how I feel. It's not a judgment on anybody else. I can only talk about how I feel. I personally think those kids have been through enough. And so I have no desire to know where they are. As long as they're happy, healthy, and being taken care of, that's all that I care about. So, and Jaguar says we would probably not want to know how many children live this exact reality daily. I do know that there are one child living this exact reality daily is one child too many, in my opinion. And I know that sadly, there's far, far more than just one child living like that. But Hey Jude says, I would rather see a man realize his daughter is better off with someone else. Maybe, that's a very good point. That outcome can be taken both ways, right? It can be taken as much as Danny has improved, he still doesn't have his daughter, right? Or it can be taken that as much as Danny has improved, he doesn't feel he's improved enough to get his daughter back. He's not ready. And I don't think that it is Anonymous. I don't think that's who it is. But I'm not sure. And for that, you can't, I think people forget that it's when you've gone through addiction and you're on and you're past the addiction part and you're now going through recovery. It's hard. Of course, you would want your children to be with you, but it is doing the right thing is not always doing the, the easy thing. You know, the right thing is to make sure that you have every single duck in a row before you get your children or your child back. And as hard as it is for you to be away from your children, in the end, it's better for them. And because in my opinion, in my experience, you need to figure out, and sometimes this takes for me personally, it took a lot shorter time
Okay,
to
please bring out Ms. Simon.
stop doing the prescription medication. That part wasn't hard. It's the after part. It's the figuring out what it is that caused me to self-medicate in the first place. Recognize what it was, and then work to deal with those issues. That's the hard part. The hard part is, in my opinion anyway, not getting off the drugs. It's hard, but it's not the hardest part, I should say. And so, maybe Danny is waiting. Maybe he says, I'm clean, I'm sober, and I've been clean and I've been sober for a while, but I don't feel like I'm at the point in my life where the best place for my child is with me. And that's a sacrifice.
Ms. Simon has rejoined her counsel at that table. We're back from break. Is there anything that we need to take up before bringing in the jury? Okay, and Mr. Hilliard, you ready to proceed?
We are, Judge.
Okay, please bring in the jury. Just a moment.
Witness back on the stand before we bring the jury in.
Yes. Daniel Youngkin.
I mean, there's all kinds of reasons, and that Danny doesn't have his custody of his child. And I'm really just curious how it played, what the jury thinks. Because at the end of the day, they're the ones that are going to decide. They're the ones whose opinion matters, because that's how they're going to render a verdict. So I just am curious, and I try to think about like how the jury is taking all of this in
Mr.
and what
Youngkin, please
they think.
take your seat once again in the witness stand.
I will say this, Violet, it is a daily struggle. It is a choice every single day not to use.
All right, Mr. Youngkin, you understand that you remain under oath?
Yes, sir.
Let's bring out the jury.
Because I can tell you from personal experience, I was on prescription medication, and the physical pain that caused me to be on prescription medication, that has not stopped. I'm still every single day in pain. My back hurts every single day, but every single day I make a choice not to go to the doctor and ask for a prescription. And it's hard. There are some days when it's harder than others. Some days the pain is very hard, but I never want to be in that place again. And it's a slippery slope. And this is also a good point, Cutie Pie. Just a second. Let me just pause this really quick. Cutie Pie says it's really not relevant or anyone's business why he doesn't have custody. He's not the one on trial, in my opinion. As for us, like the viewers, no, it's not. It's not really relevant to us or our business. However, I think the way that cross-examination went, I do believe that on some level, without coming out directly and stating it outright and accusing Danny, I think that the defense is trying to establish that he wasn't in a good place mentally either, that he was going around, being resentful and angry of Leilani, and they stopped just short of stating outright that he could be the potential alternate suspect. And I think only in that capacity is it relevant for the jury, not for us. It's not really our business, but we're discussing it anyway. I don't want to know who has the baby, though. That's not my business.
Ladies and gentlemen, please have a seat. And jurors, were you able to continue to comply with the court's instructions? Yes. All right, very well, thank you. Mr. Dean?
Danny, I think you were asked some questions on cross-examination about where y'all kept cocaine. in the
Yes,
room.
sir.
Can you tell me again where you kept it?
There was a dresser across from the bed that was like 4 feet tall, 5 feet tall.
Was there also a dresser next to the bed?
Yes, sir.
Which one was taller?
The one across from the bed.
And you're saying that's the one that y'all kept the cocaine in?
Yes, sir.
Why that dresser and not the other one?
Because it was taller and less. They couldn't reach it. The kids couldn't reach it.
I'd like to show you a picture and ask if you can just explain to us which piece of furniture you're talking about, okay?
Yes, sir.
And I'm just going to go ahead and while we're waiting for this picture to be shown, let me just pause really quickly. I'm just going to go ahead and apologize now. I can tell, I can feel in my voice, I'm feisty. And I think, and I apologize for that part. I know that a huge reason that I'm feisty is that this testimony that we've been hearing over the last 4 days is difficult testimony. And I really just cannot get the image of the bones that were put on, the pictures of the bones that were put on during the forensic anthropologist's testimony, and that Quentin, that little face, that happy little face that we've seen, right? And all of his pictures was reduced to just a couple of bags, and it just breaks my heart. And I confess I'm struggling a little, and I'm coming across a little feisty. So I apologize in advance for that. It's not y'all, it's this. So I'm sorry if I'm feisty to you guys, or short. It's not directed at you. I'm her mug, her smugness is just. I'll get it together, Jen Lou. All right, here we go.
All right, this is image 44 from State's Exhibit 10. Are we seeing in this picture the piece of furniture that you're talking about?
Yes, sir.
Where in this piece of furniture or on this piece of furniture would you guys keep cocaine?
There's a shelf in there that's at the top, near the top, and then on top of it
And how do you open that piece of furniture?
with that door handle right there. Well, with that knob.
So you have to pull that knob to open it?
Yes, sir. And there's a shelf near that hinge, sort of at the bottom of it.
Like right here,
Like towards the bottom of it, yeah.
towards the bottom of the top hinge.
Yeah, there should be a shelf in there.
Okay. Did you ever see Quentin open that piece of furniture?
No, never.
If he had, was he able to open it to your knowledge?
No, not to my knowledge. I believe it was taller than he could reach.
And had he been able to open the door, would he have been able to reach to the top shelf?
No.
And are you saying that that's specifically why you kept it up there to keep it away from the kids?
Yes, sir.
Was Quentin able to get out of his pack and play?
No, sir.
How much were y'all paying for cocaine at this time?
Quite a little bit, actually.
What do you mean by that?
20 to 40 a bag.
And how much is the bag? Like how much are we talking about in the bag?
0.3, 0.5, something like that.
0.3 or 0.5?
Of a gram.
Okay, so less than a gram.
Yes.
And how much money is that, you said?
$40 would get you probably like a 0.5, maybe.
So did you consider cocaine to be expensive?
Yeah.
Were y'all in the habit of just leaving it laying around?
No.
Once you bought cocaine, would you be careful to take care of it and safeguard it?
Yeah. As much as possible.
Now, I want to ask you some questions about Defense Exhibit 1 that was shown to you that I don't think was introduced into evidence. Is that right, Madam Clerk? Was Defense Exhibit 1 introduced into evidence formally?
Yes,
It was?
that's one. Or
That
defense
defense
one.
exhibit.
Oh, no, it was not.
I've marked it, the copy that I was given, it states Exhibit 87. Danny, you've identified these as text messages that you sent to the defendant over a period of time.
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, I would introduce this as states 87.
No objection. I was gonna wait till the detective just cross-mark it as defense one, if that's okay, and states 87. I'm good with that, Jim.
Okay, that's fine.
I mean, Rick James said it. He
No,
said
do
cocaine
that.
is a hell of a drug.
To the witness, and I'm gonna grab
It ain't cheap.
the clerk's table so that I can follow along myself. Okay. Danny, what's the date and time of the message that you're looking at on the page that I've turned to?
October 1st, 2022, 1:34:29 a.m.
And what did you say in this message?
I said, can't come in and lay down at 2 a.m. Just go out and fuck around and don't tell me or don't ask me or tell me shit.
What did you mean by don't ask me or tell me shit?
Just, I was unaware of her whereabouts or that she left or what she was doing.
What did you mean by fuck around? Just can't come in.
Do whatever she wanted to do.
Did you know what she was doing?
No, I didn't ever ask.
And that was at 1:34 a.m.
Yes, sir.
Can you flip to the page in front of that? What's the time of this message?
Is this the one from her? Is that what you were saying? Or is it, wait, at 1:34 or 12:27?
We'll just go up there. How about that?
Yeah, sorry. This is the one we were at. So, are you talking about this one? Yeah, that one. Okay.
Now, I've flipped forward a couple pages. What is the date and time of this message?
10/1/2022, 1:40:37 a.m.
That's like 5 minutes after the last one that we read.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Okay, go back to it, please. All right. And what did you say here?
That it'll be 3 a.m. before I see you and no beer.
Do you remember where, if anywhere, she had told you that she was going at this time?
No.
Did you know what she was doing?
No.
Did you have any suspicion as to what she was doing?
Yeah.
And what was that?
2:04. For however long she felt like staying there for.
All right. Can you turn to the next page? Yeah, the one in front of it.
This
Okay,
one.
and this is what date and time?
10/1/2022, 2:19:08 a.m.
All right, so same morning, but like
40 minutes.
40 minutes later or something
Yeah,
like that.
40 or 50, yeah.
40 or
Well,
50
it's
minutes.
1:35, so 2:20, so 25, 20, 45 minutes.
Okay. Was she still gone at the time of this message?
Yes, sir.
And what did you say to her?
But want me to be all over you when you run off at night like this and lie and don't respond?
And you thought she was at 204,
Yeah.
right? And that's where y'all would get drugs from.
Yes, sir.
I can take that back now. How far was let me ask you this. When we say 204 in an Arkwright Lane, are we talking about the same place?
Yes, sir.
The drug dealer's residence?
Yes, sir.
Okay. How long, if all you wanted to do was drive from 535 Buckhalter, or all someone wanted to do, you, the defendant, whoever. If all you wanted to do was drive from 535 Buckhalter to 204, aka Arkwright Lane, and buy drugs and then come home, how long would that take?
A maximum of like 40 minutes.
Okay. Were there times, perhaps including the time period encompassed in these messages that we've just gone through, where the defendant would go to 204 / aka Arkwright Lane for longer than it would take to just buy drugs?
Yes, sir.
And is that kind of what you were complaining about in those messages?
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Hilliard asked you about those messages or some messages like them. Were you upset that she wasn't home with the drugs yet? Do you remember him asking you that?
Yes.
And you responded, no, I was just annoyed that she wasn't home yet, that she was still out.
Yes, sir.
Is that accurate?
Yes, sir.
One moment, please, Your Honor. All right, I'd like to approach with what I've marked as State's Exhibit 86, Your Honor.
Has 86 been entered into, has it been admitted into evidence?
No, Your Honor, that has not been offered yet.
All right, thank you.
I've handed the witness what I've marked as State's Exhibit 86. Sir, if you could look through that, take as long as you need, and then let me know when you're ready to talk about that document, okay?
Okay.
Do you recognize that, Danny?
Yeah.
Can you tell us what it is?
Text messages between me and Leilani.
What is the start date of those messages?
10 o'clock, 10:04 p.m. on the 4th of October, 2022.
Okay. What's the end date and time?
11. My last text message was 11:01 p.m. Her last text message was 11:10 p.m. on the 4th of October, 2022.
Fair to say that these are your text messages from that night.
Yes, sir.
Does this fairly and accurately depict your text message communications that night?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, I would offer this as State's 87.
No objection, Judge.
And may I call it? 86. Pardon.
86.
Thank you.
We don't know what Danny knows. We don't know if he knows about Red because none of the questions that he's been asked thus far have elicited that response. So we're all just sort of waiting in anticipation, hoping that that little hamster on the wheel in Danny's brain clicks.
Towards the bottom of page 4. And let me ask you this. Can you see the screen from where you're at? You turn to the side, can you see it?
Yes, sir.
And can you read off of that screen all right? I don't know if it's one of those screens where if you're at an angle.
No, I can see it.
Okay. So from here on out, can we just work off the screen together, please?
Yeah.
I think that'd be easier.
Absolutely.
This green message here, can you tell us the time of this?
6:20, 6:06 p.m. 10/4/2022.
Okay, so this is the evening of October 4th.
Yes, sir.
But this would be some hours before she left on this 204 trip, correct?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
And the next message here, what does this one say?
I'm gonna run to 204, I guess, at 10:32:20 on the 4th of October, 2022.
Okay. So is it fair to say then that this message right here is basically like your first nighttime text message
Yes, sir.
between you and her? I know it's not your text message.
Yes, sir.
Scrolling down, what time did you respond to that?
10:32:41, so 20 seconds later.
Okay. And what did you say?
Oh, ... okay.
Now-
Space ...
Can I take from those two messages, well, the fact that she texts you, gonna run to 204, I guess. Can I take away from that she was already gone from the house at the time she sent that message to you?
Yeah, it was either that or she was sitting on the front porch.
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure, to be honest.
And your response, oh, okay. Why did you respond that way?
Because I was already laying down and ready to go to bed for the next morning to go to work at 6
were you surprised that she was
Yes,
all of a sudden going to 204 at this time of night?
yes, sir.
Okay.
Considering that we had work and that she had just gotten her tooth pulled earlier that day,
And
I just said, be safe, I guess.
that was how long after? Oh, okay.
2 minutes and 8 seconds on the 4th of October, 2022.
Now, what time was the next message? And you can drop the seconds. at this point.
The next minute after, and she said, I will be, so she was responding, I'll be safe and I'll be quick, I promise.
Danny, if you
And
don't
what
come
did you
out,
say to that?
hold on a
I
minute.
hope so.
Danny, if you don't come out with it, I'm going to call the damn corners. Okay. Come on, bruh. We're trying to get for you to say Red Craig. She was gone too long because she was buffing Red Craig. Can you please work with us here, sir? We want these text messages in.
And that was like the same minute.
21 seconds left. Yes, yes, sir.
And what did you say next?
3 minutes later, Paul showed up and is going to bed.
And can I presume that the defendant was still gone at this point?
Yes, sir.
What did she say to that?
Wow. Okay.
And then what did you say?
He said something about telling you he was on the way and then you leaving and him getting threatened to get ran over.
Can you just kind of explain to us what, it sounds like that's a reference to some.
Yeah, I think he had like an incident on the road on the way back to the house or something.
And then what's her next message to you?
At 10:41, she said, I'm about to turn onto 204. And I said, okay, at the same minute.
And what's the next message?
She said, no, he said in a little bit.
What is that a reference to?
I believe it's in reference to Paul. I'm honestly not 100% sure.
And then your next message, maybe that'll clarify.
That's what I said. Oh yeah, I remember it. Sorry.
Can you first read the message and tell us what this particular part of the exchange means?
That's what I said. You said, he said. But he said something about something about no, it was I'm on the way or something.
Was there, let me just ask you this, does this exchange refer to some sort of like miscommunication between the defendant and Paul about when exactly Paul was going to get out?
Yeah, that's what I'm gathering from it. Yes, sir.
And then at 10:44 at the top of page 7 of this document, what did you say?
Thank you for the little bit left. So sweet, no lie.
And what were you referring to here?
She left a little bit of Coke on the top of the dresser for me.
Was it in a bag or not in a bag or what?
I think it was a little line left out.
How much was it?
0.05 gram.
Was it the last, I'm going off of the text of the message here. Was it the last of what y'all had in the house at that point?
Yeah.
Okay, and did you use it?
Yes.
I think, well, let me ask you this. Earlier, I think Mr. Hilliard may have asked you, were you drugging and drinking at that time? And I think you said no. Was that an intentional misrepresentation?
No, it was not.
Do you remember coming up to Savannah maybe a month or so ago and sitting down to talk to me in preparation for this trial?
Yes, sir.
And do you remember our going through all these messages together?
Yeah, I do now.
And do you remember my specifically asking you what that text message meant?
Yes, I do.
Do you remember freely admitting to me at that time? that
Yes,
there was
I
a
do.
Reference to a little bit of cocaine.
Yes, I do.
What's your next message here?
I just noticed it. Paul asked if soda was free to drink because of kids only on Hawaiian Punch. Sounds like I'm sleepily texting.
Why?
And there it is. I bet you that's what made the vomit the color it was Hawaiian Punch. Also, KD, my elderly mom says boffing. I'm sorry that your elderly mom says that. Perhaps I'm elderly, but I was trying to think of a word that I could say that everybody would know that would also still, my bad. I'll think of a different euphemism. I'm full of them. Here we go.
Because I barely understand what I'm saying.
Now, was this the point in the night where Paul was getting something to eat or drink in the kitchen?
Yes, sir.
And how did she respond to that?
Yeah, just tell him not to be excessive with it.
And what did you say?
Gotcha.
Now, this next message, what time are we at here?
10:45.
And read us what you say to her.
I love you. Please come back so we can crash together.
Number of R's on the end of together there.
4.
What are you wanting to do at this point?
Go to sleep.
Do you know where you were in the house when you sent this message?
Laying in the bed.
What if anything was holding you back from going to sleep at this point?
Her being back.
Scrolling down to the top of page 8,
6 minutes later.
what did you say to her?
Or not.
Had she responded to your last message about come
No.
back so we can crash together?
No.
So you say or not, and what does she say?
I love you.
And what does she say next?
And I'm about to be walking to the car.
And what time was that message sent?
10:51.
In your response?
1 minute later, I said, oh, okay.
And your next message?
I guess I'm gonna eat this food and stay up for a few. So I guess I was sleepy.
Do you know what food you were referring to?
I believe it was the spaghetti.
What were you doing at this point in time?
Laying down in the bed and trying to wait on her.
As far as you were concerned, was the day pretty much over at this point?
Yes, sir.
And what was your next message and when?
10:56. I said, I no want to be tired or you be tired either. They.
And that was how long after the last message where you said, I guess I'm going to try to stay up for a few minutes?
4.
Oh, I like those,
4
Pearl.
minutes.
I might use that. It's much
You're still
classier
wanting
than
to go to
Pound
bed
Town.
At this point?
Absolutely.
Just wanting her to come home so you can do that.
Yes, sir.
How did she respond to that?
I know, maybe.
And what did you say?
I know you don't feel great. I don't know how you're still up. And I wanted to watch a movie. Sad moment.
And what time did you send that message?
1 minute later, exactly.
How are you feeling at this point?
Sad and tired.
Did she respond to that message?
No.
What's the next message?
4 minutes later, I said, moi.
What does that mean? I don't mean to embarrass you. I just don't know.
A
who
kiss.
knows. All right. It's a text message representation of a kissing noise.
Yeah.
Okay. And when did you send that message?
4 minutes later.
What time of night?
11:01.
All right. 11:01 p.m. on the 4th.
Yes, sir.
Did she respond to that message immediately?
No, it was 9 minutes later.
And what did she say?
The same thing.
Is that the last text message you sent to anybody that night?
Yeah, I believe.
All right. And at the time that you sent this message at 11:01 and didn't get a response, what were you doing?
I believe I went to sleep.
Okay. So If there has been maybe some lack of clarity at times as to whether you were
Awake or asleep.
asleep or going to sleep when she gets home from 204, could that be because you're sort of in the process of going to bed at that point?
Yes, sir. Based on my text messages and spelling, I can see that as well. And my lack of remembering correctly.
You mentioned that this was not a one-time thing where she would kind of go out and be gone and you don't know exactly what she's doing.
Yes, sir.
Is this sort of normal type of text messages for you to send to her during that time frame?
Yes, sir.
Does anything in these text messages suggest that anything abnormal had happened in the house at this point?
No.
Now, going back to the morning of October 4th, before these messages, so let's go back to the dentist, okay?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Well, actually, let's go to work before the dentist, all right?
Yes, sir.
The two of you, did you drive to work together in the journey?
Yes, sir.
And I think you've talked about how you clocked out early to go to the dentist.
Yeah, to take her.
Did the two of you drive together in the journey to the dentist?
Yes, sir.
Do you remember who was driving?
Me.
And then while she was at the dentist, you testified that you went to the liquor store.
Yes, sir.
And did you then come back to the dentist?
Yes, sir.
All right. When you went to the liquor store from the dentist, did you walk or did you drive in the journey?
I drove in the journey.
And when you came back to the dentist, did you therefore drive back in the journey?
Yes, sir.
And then I think you said from the dentist's office, you got.
I just want to point out that I see the comments in the chat. I too have been trying to ascertain what the pendant on his necklace is. I am leaning towards an anchor, but can't confirm. That is all.
Went to Cheddar's.
Yeah. Yes, sir. I believe it was in the same area.
Did you drive to Cheddar's in the journey?
Yes, sir.
And then you testified that from Cheddar's you went home, right?
From my memory, yeah.
Okay. In any case, there was more driving in the journey that day.
Yes, sir.
And then at some point you're home.
Yes.
Okay. At any point that day driving that car around, did you smell anything in the car?
No.
Smell any old food?
No.
Smell anything that caused you to go look around the car and see what that smell is?
No, sir.
For those of you who might be watching on the replay, the chat and I have settled on it is an anchor. Again, I repeat, the pendant mystery has been solved. It is an anchor.
So I'm showing
Everyone
you
can rest
image
easy. It's an anchor.
33 of State's Exhibit 10.
Thank you, preschool
This has
granny.
been identified.
We need a
by
little humor.
Other witnesses as apparent vomit on Quentin's pillowcase, as photographed by the police on October 5th. Have you now gotten a look at that?
Yes, sir.
Later, I'll solve the mystery of
remember
did
ever seeing-
Sarah Boone get her
No,
5
sir.
mints?
If the call to the police was morning of Wednesday, October 5th, right?
Yes, sir.
If that had been there Monday night, an all-day Tuesday, do you think you would have seen it at some point or been aware of it?
Yes, sir.
So do you think we can conclude from that then that it
Objection, Your Honor, calls for speculation. Can't conclude anything. Testify what he saw, heard.
Mr. Dean,
first, may I ask that we not have speaking objections? And second, I will withdraw the question.
yes.
Do you have any recollection of an incident involving an accidental explosion of a package of rice cereal in the back of the Dodge Journey?
No.
And that was a car you drove pretty much every day.
Yes, sir.
Also, I would just like to take a moment to interject here. I've raised 4 children, and all 4 of my children, when they were infants, had that Gerber rice cereal. And I've bought many boxes of Gerber rice cereal, and at no time has the box of Gerber rice cereal ever exploded anywhere at any time. Not in the back of my car, not in a box, not with a fox, not here or there. It has not exploded anywhere. That is all.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Clear?
Thank you, Judge. Mr. Youngkin, it's your testimony that you slept in that room the entire evening of October 4th until the early morning hours of October 5th, correct?
Yes, sir.
The same room that Quentin, Zane, and Sky were in, correct?
How exciting, Kelly. Congratulations.
It's 2 rooms together, but
Are there any walls that divide it?
no.
It's wide open, correct?
Yes.
You testified that you saw the kids okay, and you told them you saw the kids okay when you left at 5:30 that morning, correct?
I was mistaken.
Well, you're mistaken now, but you weren't then. The first time you spoke was on October 5th, wasn't it, Mr. Youngkin?
Objection, Your Honor.
I was mistaken then.
Mr. Youngkin, just a moment. Your objection?
2 objections. 1, asked and answered previously. 2, beyond the scope of recross examination.
I'm going to allow Mr. Hilliard to ask those questions.
I really won't, Judge. It's not that big of a deal. Mr. Youngkin, you testified on redirect a minute ago that you were a responsible cocaine addict and you only put the cocaine on top of the testify.
I didn't
correct?
say I was responsible.
Okay. Well, you put it in a place that only the kids couldn't get it. Well, let me ask you this. You also testified a few minutes later, didn't you, that you couldn't read your own text messages because you weren't making sense. You were either tired or intoxicated, correct? Yes or no?
I was tired.
Well, that's your explanation, but you're also intoxicated. You admitted to doing cocaine and alcohol that evening, correct?
That's a matter of opinion.
Now, you were asked whether or not you saw this pillow, right? Mr. Dean just asked you about that.
He asked me if I had seen it prior to the 5th. Yes.
Right. Let me ask you this. At any point in time on October 5th, did you ever speak to anyone about an overwhelming smell of vomit emanating from the crib?
No.
Did you smell vomit?
No.
Were you sleeping in that room all night?
Yes.
And you woke up, correct? Got ready for work and left that morning, correct?
Yes.
Did you ever mention that you smelled vomit?
No, I was asleep.
Call the question like that.
All right, Mr. Dean, anything further?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Youngkin, you are excused, sir. Is there any reason to retain this witness? Let me ask that. Under subpoena.
May I have 1 moment on that question, Your Honor?
Dietz says, I have to go with Dietz here, you guys. It is a good point.
No, Your Honor.
Very good.
Thank you. Mr. Youngkin, you're excused, sir. You're welcome.
I thought it was carpet fresh too until they got to the descriptions, Grandma Sherry, and we all learned together that it was rice cereal.
All right, Mr. Dean, you may call your next witness.
David Mullins.
David Mullins. He's on his way. All right.
While we wait for the next witness, I would like to take the opportunity to point out that while there are a couple of different manners in which that specific substance can be can be taken, you can ingest it, you can snort it. Danny's preferred method was snorting. And therefore, the only thing I know you snort with is your nose. And I would imagine it's possible that due to the excessive snorting that occurred, maybe his sniffer was off. I don't know.
All right, good morning. When you are ready, Mr. Dean.
Good morning, sir. Could you please introduce yourself to the jury?
Hi, my name is David Mullen.
Normal spelling of David.
Yep, David, last name Mullen.
And what is your city and state of residence, sir?
Currently Springfield, Georgia.
What do you do for a living?
I'm a warehouse manager.
And where do you work?
Currently work for a company called Eunice.
How long have you been in warehouse or freight operations?
A little over 12 years.
In October of 2022, where were you working and what were you doing?
I was working for a company called Eclipse Advantage. We were a warehouse labor provider.
And where specifically did you work?
In the Port Wentworth location, I was the facility manager for the company.
And what was this location specifically?
Inside of NFI's warehouse. I'm trying to remember the street address.
Does Littlehurst
Yep.
sound right?
101 Littlehurst. Parkway.
101 Littlehurst in Port Wentworth?
Yep.
And you said this is an NFI warehouse?
Correct.
What is NFI?
NFI is a third-party contracted logistics provider in that particular building. They were contracted by Target to process freight for them, and we were subcontracted by NFI to provide labor.
Okay. So NFI has a contract with Target, and it's their building.
Yes.
And then Eclipse, the company that you work for, did what now?
We provided labor, the actual manpower of actually loading the boxes into the trailers for NFI.
What exactly would go on there?
Basically, it was a 24-hour day operation, scheduled for 7 days a week. Shifts were often canceled, however, by NFI due to lack of work. So we would have people that would unload containers, get the freight onto the floor, onto carts. The carts would be pushed over to the outbound side, where my team would take over and load the boxes into the trailers off the carts.
And where do the trailers go from there?
They go to Target's distribution centers.
Okay, so what's happening here is taking stuff out of shipping containers and putting it in trucks to be driven where it needs to
Correct.
go. Okay. In your capacity as what was your position again, you said at that time?
I was the warehouse facility manager.
Okay. And in that capacity, did you meet the defendant, Leilani Simon?
Yes, I did.
And did you meet Daniel Youngkin?
Yes, I did.
And did you meet Paul Simon?
Yes, I did.
How did you meet all these people?
They're all employed by Eclipse, so they all reported up through other people to me.
And what did they do for Eclipse during the time period we're talking about, October 2022?
They were responsible for loading trailers. So when the cart would get pulled over to the door, it was their responsibility to take the boxes off of that cart and stack it as high and tight as possible inside of a trailer.
Is there security at that building, or was there security at that building at the time?
Yes.
That affected employees going in and out to
Yes.
and from work? Can you tell us about that, please?
So there were metal detectors. There was a staff security operation right at the front entrance to the building. So all employees had to go through the metal detectors. For any reason the metal detector went off, security would then warn them. Now checking for metal objects, making sure that nothing was being brought into the operation. They're also responsible for keeping an eye on associates leaving to make sure that no product was leaving.
All right, and what did that involve?
Basically a cursory glance 9 times out of 10. If someone was leaving with the bag, they would ask them to open the bag or peek inside the bag.
Okay, so employees even leaving work have to go through security.
Yes.
Okay. How did you keep track there of what hours people were working?
So we used a timekeeping system where every employee had their fingerprint that was biometrically registered. So when they would come in for the day, they would put their finger up against the fingerprint reader. It would record their time in, and same thing for their time out.
Did you have the ability to, if somebody had left and forgotten to clock out, did you have the ability to manually
Yes.
clock them out? And how would you do that?
That would be off my computer terminal, either myself or the human resources manager, and the supervisors on the floor also had access to that.
Did at some point during the investigation of this case, did the FBI make contact with you?
Yes, they did.
And was there a Chatham County police detective there as well?
Yes.
Okay. And what were they asking you for?
They asked me for if I had any time card records of the defendant or Danny Youngkin or Paul Simon.
And were you able to pull responsive documentation?
Yes.
And did you give time cards for the 3 of them
Yes.
to the FBI? Do you see in front of you 3 documents marked as States Exhibits 36, 37, and 38?
Yes, I do.
Do you know what those documents are?
Yep, those are printouts of the time cards.
Are those copies of what you gave to the FBI during the investigation?
Yes, they are.
And did those time cards reflect when you hit export or print and produce them?
Yes, they do. They are timestamped at the top, time and date.
And what was the date that you produced those to the FBI?
That was October 6th.
Okay. Are these timesheets we're looking at, are these maintained in the ordinary course of business at Eclipse?
Yes.
And do they reflect things as they happened at the time that they happened? Like they say somebody clocked in at this time, that's
Yes.
accurate?
Yes.
And they're kept on file?
Yep.
Do you consider them business records of Eclipse Advantage?
Yes.
Your Honor, I would offer these in as 36, 37, and 38.
No objection, Your Honor.
36, 37, and 38 are admitted without objection.
All right, I would like to, now, let me pull these up, and I just want to ask you a couple questions about them.
Sure.
All right, this is State's Exhibit 36. Whose time card is this?
That is Leilani Simons.
And can we see here the date and time that you produced this document?
Yep, October 6th, 2022 at 3:54 p.m.
Okay, so that date and time reflects when you printed it out or something.
Correct.
if it was produced on Thursday, October 6, 2022, can I take it then that on the last page at the bottom, that is the day represented by this Thursday here?
Yes,
Okay. And that would make this Wednesday above it
yes,
October 5th?
Yep.
Okay, and then the Tuesday above that, October 4th?
correct.
Okay. Now, this column over here, what does this reflect?
That was the scheduled time that was input by one of the regional managers.
Okay, so we're talking about the second, just so the record's clear, I should be a little better about this. We're talking about the second column from the left?
Yes,
Okay. And let me actually back out and just have you talk about these columns generally. Sorry, I'm jumping around a little bit.
yep, certainly.
Leftmost column says date.
Yep.
Pretty self-explanatory.
Yes,
Next column says schedule, and you just talked about that, right?
correct.
What does the next column mean?
That is a system notated absence.
And the next column?
That is their pay code. So if an employee who typically would work on first shift works on second shift, you would see a pay code update there.
And the next column?
That is the amount of time.
And then I think the next few columns are the ones that we're most concerned with. That's the in, out, transfer, in, out, transfer. Can you tell us what those things refer to?
Yep, so that is the actual punches. So for example, looking at what is on the screen, that very first in punch you see where it says 6:09, that was the clocked in time for that particular day.
Okay. And then the next column would be the clock out time or punch
Correct.
out time? Okay. Let's go back down now with that background to Tuesday, October 5th. And again, we're in the defendant's timesheet right now, correct?
Yes,
What does this reflect in terms of what she was scheduled to work that day?
she was scheduled to work from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m.
And what does it reflect in terms of when she actually clocked in?
She clocked in at 6:08, which then flagged for a supervisor to approve. That was approved, if that's what that check mark is. The approval basically just means it was acknowledged that the employee was not on time or did not punch within the 5-minute parameters before or after the scheduled punch.
And then what does the next column over reflect?
That would be the out punch for the day, which was 7:57 in the morning.
So that's pretty early, right?
Yes.
Do you remember why?
She had a toothache. So her and Danny had, one of the two of them had texted my work phone and said that she had a toothache. It was reported to the supervisor on the floor. The supervisor agreed to let them leave for her to go and get the tooth looked at.
Now, what does her time card reflect in terms of Wednesday, October 5th?
She did not come into work.
What is that? Yeah, I see the word excuse there. What does that mean?
That is acknowledging that the employee was not in. We had to either mark it as no call, no show or excused. No call, no show could lead to termination very quickly. So usually absences were marked as excused.
Now, Daniel Youngkin's timesheet, is it substantially the same setup?
Yes,
All right. And that Tuesday and the third line from the bottom, would that be October 4th?
yes.
And what does that show in terms of when he was scheduled to work?
He was scheduled to work from 6 o'clock in the morning to 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
And is that the same shift as the defendant?
Yes.
And what does it show in terms of when he clocked in?
He clocked in at 6:06 in the morning, again, over that 5-minute threshold, so it had to be acknowledged.
And is that about the same time that the defendant clocked in that day?
Yes.
And when does it show in terms of when he clocked out?
He clocked out at 7:56 in the morning.
And is that about the same time that the defendant clocked out that day?
Yes.
Is this early clock out also attributable to the dentist trip?
Yes.
Okay. Now, moving on to Wednesday, October 5th, what does this show in terms of when he was scheduled to work?
He was scheduled to work from 6 o'clock in the morning to 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
And did he complete that shift?
No, he did not.
When does it show that he clocked in?
He clocked in at 6:11 in the morning.
And then what time was the clock out?
The clock out was at 9:15 in the morning.
What does this little check mark mean up here?
That means that was manually entered because he did not hit the time clock.
Okay, did you do that?
It was either myself or it was Krista, the human resources manager. I believe it was myself though, because I encountered him.
Do you know why he didn't manually clock out when he left that day?
He was in an extreme rush when he was leaving. I actually encountered him as he was leaving the building.
Can you tell us about that encounter?
Sure. As I was walking into the building, security popped their head out the door and said, "Hey, someone just ran out the door." I looked over and saw Danny getting into his car. I walked over to Danny and said, "Why did you run out the building? You have to let security check you out."
Were you able to observe his demeanor and appearance at this time?
Yes, he appeared frantic. Is probably the best word I can use to describe. He was crying, very upset. You could hear it in his voice. Something was not right.
Did you see tears coming out of
Yes,
his
I did.
face? Out of his eyes? And
Yes.
were they coming down his face as well?
Yes,
Did it appear genuine to you?
very
It's actually
much.
not, calls for speculation.
Did either Danny or the defendant ever come back to work in Eclipse after
No,
Danny's departure on October 5th?
no.
Did he leave anything at work that day when he ran out and you saw him frantic in the parking lot?
Yes, he did. He had left a jacket with a pack of cigarettes in it down on the dock.
And did you return that to him?
Yes, I did. One of the leads had turned it into the office. We had it in the office for probably a couple of weeks. Danny then reached out, asked via text message if we knew where his jacket was. I got his address in North Carolina and mailed it to him.
How long was it, as best you remember, between when you saw him run out of the warehouse or saw him in the parking lot after having run past security and having not remembered to clock out, that he asked you for his jacket back?
It had to be at least 2 to 3 weeks.
Did it seem to you that he had forgotten about it?
Objection, Your Honor, calls for speculation.
Withdrawn. Let me ask you about Paul Simon's timesheet, State's Exhibit 38, okay?
Yep.
Now, I just want to go to Tuesday, October 4th. First of all, is it the case that he did not work Wednesday, October 5th, 2022, or
Correct.
Thursday, October 6th, 2022?
Correct.
All right, so the last day he worked there, at least at the time that this.
Currently on the stand is David Mullins. He was at the time the boss where Leilani, Danny, and Paul all worked at the warehouse.
This was produced, would have been Tuesday, October 4th.
Yes.
Now, there is a lot going on here in these columns.
Yep.
For Tuesday, October 4th. Can you, first of all, tell us, was he scheduled to work this day?
In the system, no, but he was on the schedule for the day.
Okay, and can you tell us what these entries indicate in terms of what happened with his clock ins and clock outs that day?
Yep. So he came in early that day. He came in at 11:58.
Would that be AM?
Correct.
Sorry. Okay, so just before noon.
Correct.
All right, and what's the next thing that happened?
The next thing you see is 2 o'clock in the afternoon. That was the end of first shift, so we had to allocate his hours from shift to shift. So in that next column where you see transfer, you see WG1 / unload. WG1 stood for work group 1, so first shift.
And what's the next entry?
That is a clock back in at 2:01. As he never did leave, that's the only way we could update his hours to reflect into that second shift.
Just a side
The
note
next
here.
entry?
That would be his out punch for lunch break at 5:33.
Just a side note here. I'd like to point out that I hope somebody is monitoring the jurors because we know that we have one juror that's a sleeper. I hope none of the jurors are making memes. I know this is very dry testimony.
In terms of his activity there on the on October 4th.
Yep, so then he punched back in at 6:05 p.m. from lunch. And then he punched out for the day at 9:56 p.m.
And was that it for Paul on October 4th?
On that day, yes.
Okay. Is it fair to say then that he clocked in for work around noon, took a half-hour break around 5:30, came back to work, and then left work around 10 p.m.?
Yes.
Okay.
I'd also like to address anybody watching the stream who has not yet given a thumbs up. Frankly, at this point, I'm using the golf voice, which is not an easy thing for me to do. As you all know, I am usually very loud. So I believe that I would like to file a motion with the court that the lurkers that are watching that have not given a thumbs up due to the golf voice should now give me a thumbs up. That is all.
Clocking in, checking out, getting excused, things like that.
Myself or the supervisors.
Well, I guess let me just jump to this. Did you know Miss Simon back then?
Yes.
Interact with her.
Yes.
Did you know Mr. Paul Simon at that point?
Yes, I did.
By looking at him.
Yep.
Did you know Mr. Danny Youngkin by interacting with him?
Yes.
So if you passed them on the street, you'd know who they were, correct?
Yes.
I didn't see this on the sheets, but the regular shift was from 6 to 2
Yes.
for Mr. Youngkin and Miss Simon, correct?
Yes.
And the regular shift for Paul Simon, I think, was like 2 to 10.
Yes.
Okay. Those are the general shifts they worked. What was your shift usually?
My shift was typically more of a mid shift. So I would get in typically between 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. and I'd work over into that second shift so I could interact with both shifts.
So you could kind of bridge the gap. You would,
Yes.
you know, Leilani and Danny would get there a little bit before you, and they would leave a little bit before you left. And generally speaking, Paul would get there a little bit before you left every day.
Yes.
So, and how often would you say you interacted with them?
Typically at least once every 2 days. Again, my responsibility is more running the business. They would have a lot of interaction with the daily floor leadership.
Okay. And you said if they were more than 5 minutes late, they had to get a supervisor to check their timesheet and to approve it, correct?
Yes.
So it sounds like there was, any time that you were late, and I guess it didn't matter if you were clocking in, going to lunch or whatever, the supervisor would have to approve that, and that's what those little check marks
Yes.
were. Did y'all have any policy about smoke breaks or anything like that?
No firm policy. If the team was standing around waiting for work, they could go have a cigarette. To do that, they had to leave the floor, go through a security checkpoint, but still stay within the premises of the building.
So
Thank
was it
you,
like a
Christina
designated
J.
area that
Glad
they
you're.
had to go to?
Hold on a
And
sec.
is that where all the
Thank you, Christina J. I'm glad you arrived at your stop safely, and I'm glad that I could be humorous and get you guys through this trial. I appreciate you being here. That is all.
employees and supervisors had to go to smoke?
Yes.
All right. And did you ever see Miss Simon out there smoking?
Yes.
Mr. Simon?
Yes.
Mr. Youngkin?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm not prying, I'm an ex-smoker, but did you smoke with him as well?
Yes.
Okay. And how often would you see them out there? I'm not, it's no, would you see them once a week, once a day? I mean,
That's usually where I interact with them the most, honestly. So once every 2 days
so
on
that's,
average.
that's where you'd see them all, was out there smoking, correct? And you said you returned Mr. Youngkin's jacket to him,
Yes,
and in the jacket was a pack of cigarettes?
yes.
And what type of cigarettes did Mr. Youngkin smoke?
Thank you so much, B. Crumbs, for gifting 5 memberships. If you were the lucky recipient of the gifted memberships from B. Crumbs, please be sure to thank her. Thanks, babe. That was super generous. I appreciate that very much.
I don't recall. I want to say, I'm not positive, but I want to say it was like Marlboro menthol or something.
And you smoked with him on more than one occasion in the
Yes.
smoke break, I guess the smoke break area?
Yep.
Thank you. That's all the questions I have. Thank you, Mr. Miller.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further, Mr. Dean?
No, Your Honor.
Any reason to hold this witness under subpoena?
No.
No, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Mullins, you're excused.
Thank you.
Oh, we have a different color beret today, and I like it. It's adorable. I love those berets.
Mr. Dean, your next witness.
Also, oh, I highlighted the wrong one. Allie's correct. Remember, Danny did say he didn't smoke like that, only
All your witness,
occasionally.
ladies and gentlemen.
Your Honor, we're waiting on a couple witnesses to come downstairs, but we're, other than that, ready to
Do y'all want
proceed.
to stand up and take a little stretch break?
Yes. Come on, everybody.
Need a break. All right. Let's take a 15-minute break.
What?
Yours to be exiting.
Another break. Let's see. Well, I will say this. My mom was a smoker, and the hospital that she worked at, when she first started working there, it was a smoking campus. Over the years, it became a non-smoking campus, so you'd have to go across the street. But I remember when I was, I think, 13, I volunteered. I was a candy striper, and I would usually take my lunch with I'd usually go meet my mom for lunch. And then after lunch, she would go, out to the smokers area. My mom knew like so many people from so many different departments just because she smoked. She was, she worked in histology, which is where, like, say, anytime anything is ever removed from the body, no matter what it is, it goes down to the pathology department, and the histologist is responsible for taking a section of that, and depending on what they're trying to ascertain, she would stain it and, mount it, put it on slides, put it in paraffin, stain it, put it on a slide, all those things, right? So she did have quite a bit of interaction just from that, but she would know people from departments that had nothing to do with the pathology department. She was friends with everybody. I just remember that, and so that hospital is the hospital that I ended up having all of my kids at. And I got I got excellent care anyway, but I think I got like some extra like TLC and extra perks because my mom knew so many people in that hospital in various departments, and they knew me from being a candy striper and stuff. So it's just funny to me how it used to be that smoking was so socially acceptable, and now it's just not. And people, it's interesting to me, just how the world changes, but some things don't change. When you are a smoker and you are work, you're employed, how, smokers tend to congregate whether they work together in the same department or not. And I just think that's interesting. That's all. But congratulations to you, Leslie, for quitting smoking. I wish that I could quit. I've tried many times. I quit every single time I was pregnant, only to start right back up again. So, yeah, that was the thing about it, Ween Baby. Like, all the hospital gossip out there, with the smokers. They knew all the things and all the tea and everything. And, I just, I wish I could, I need to quit. I need to try again. I'm not going to say I wish I could quit, because really the fact of the matter is I need to try. I don't know if they still have candy stripers. What I did neat was I went around, I volunteered all over the hospital. Mainly, I did like data entry in the medical records department. What else did we do? We did filing for different departments, stuff like that. I don't think that we were allowed. I never tried to go like volunteer in the nursery with the babies. I don't know that we were even allowed to, so long ago. But yeah, that's what we did. I remember when you could smoke on airplanes. I remember that because one summer, my sister and I flew from Arizona to California. We stayed this summer with our aunt, and there were more than a few times that my mom, we flew from Tucson to Phoenix to go see my grandmother. She lived in Phoenix. And, we would spend like a week with her, which was fun and everything. Like, my grandmother could be really fun, but she knew damn right well that I didn't like eggs. I've never liked eggs. And one morning she cooked eggs for breakfast. And I said, I'll eat everything else on this plate, but I'm not going to eat those eggs, Grandma. I just don't like them. So my grandmother said, well, then you're going to sit at this table until you do eat them. And I sat there. I didn't sass back, which was shocking for me. I just sat there. And after a while, and I don't know how long it was, because, when you're a kid, it seems like forever. It could have been 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, who knows? But at some point, I'd sat there for long enough and wasn't budging. And I was not going to eat those damn eggs. That she called my mom, and my mom said, Mom, she doesn't like eggs. I don't like eggs. She's not going to eat those eggs. You can have her sit there from now until it's time for her to pack and get on that airplane. She's not going to eat those eggs. And that was the last time that my grandmother ever served eggs. So I remember smoking in the mall too. When I was in high school, you could smoke in the mall. Up until, I think, January 1st of 1994 is when the Parks Mall in Arlington became non-smoking. And you could no longer smoke in the mall. You had to go outside. And, but I remember, like, usually the mall is where everybody met up before we would go out to our real destination, which was the party. But everybody, met up at the mall, and then we all left to go to the party together. And we were all congregated in the smoking section at the mall. And none of us were old enough to be smoking at all, not even close. and not ever did we get hassled. Like it's just a different, the 90s was just a different time, you know? And I remember even being in high school, I was a smoker in high school. I started smoking in high school. And of course, you couldn't smoke at school, right? But we would go across the street and smoke. And I remember that. I remember those days. Yeah, those were the days. I was a class of 1995. I remember that. You just couldn't, like, you couldn't be seen smoking at school. Like, if you were going to smoke, they wanted you to go across the street. But if you were in the parking lot and you were leaving for the day and you lit up a cigarette, it's not like it was something that was incredibly strictly enforced. As long as you were outside and not trying to do it in the bathrooms or whatever, they didn't really give you a hard time. But yeah. Yeah. Right across the street. I mean, listen, if I, wow. I'm glad that things have changed though, because it's not healthy. It's not good for you. I mean, you know, when I was a kid, my parents, they smoked in the car with us. They had the windows down, but they smoked in the car with us. There was a lot of things that went on in the 80s and the 90s when I was growing up that people would be shocked about now, you know, like, you could ride in the back of pickup trucks, 15 kids in the back of a pickup truck, you know, all headed out to a party or from a party. And, you know, nothing ever, you know, we were very lucky, you know, never in an accident or anything, but nobody did anything. Violet, I have tried vaping. I don't like the gum and I don't like the patches. The thing about vaping for me is the texture of the actual vape itself. It's the filter on a cigarette that I like. I have a weird thing about textures. Like, I was talking to my son last night and he was talking about remember when Criminality was telling us about the pineapple Pepsi, but you can only get it at Little Caesars? Well, I'm here to tell you, you cannot get it at Little Caesars in the Floridas. They don't have it. But my son and I were talking last night and he said, did you know that they didn't make just pineapple Pepsi, which is just, I looked it up. It's just Pepsi with pineapple juice. But they also made Pepsi Mango. And I was like, oh, that doesn't even sound good. And I like mango. I like the flavor of mango. What I don't like is the texture of fresh mango. It's a conundrum. I also like oranges, right? Just the way they come. But I don't like orange juice with pulp in it. I just don't. It's a texture thing and I just don't like it. So, yeah. I just don't think that it does. Pepsi has a very unique flavor to it. You know what I mean? And it's already sweet enough. I mean, Pepsi has, I think, more sugar in it than Coke. But I feel like pineapple has like a sweet taste, but it's not a sugary sweet. I don't know how to explain it, but mango just does not sound like it would go with Pepsi. And I actually thought about just using, like, making, just instead of buying it to see if I liked it, I was just going to like mix a little Pepsi and a little pineapple juice. But then I was thinking to myself, that won't work because I would to see if I liked it, right? But I was thinking, no, that won't work because I don't actually know when Pepsi makes pineapple Pepsi what the ratio of Pepsi to pineapple juice is. So if the ratio isn't correct or isn't the same, then how will I know that if I like it? And then I thought, well, I could start out with a little bit of Pepsi, you know, just adding a little bit of pineapple juice at a time. But then that seemed like way too much work and I felt like I was way overthinking it. So I just never tried. These are the kinds of things that go inside. This is welcome to Inside Jen Lou's brain. these are the things that I think about all the time. Now, I will tell you that I do like cherry Coke, but I don't like it in the bottle. My favorite is the cherry Coke that you get like from Sonic, where they add the cherry syrup to the Coke. That's what I like. I don't like it pre-mixed. Oh, I overthink all kinds of things, Ava, things that don't require overthinking. If no overthinking is required, you can guarantee that I will overthink it every single time. Every single time. Sonic Cherry Coke is my favorite. The only other place that you can get it made like that is, and I don't even know if they're still around, Burger Street. Burger Street, I used to work there. Burger Street makes it like that, and it's really, really good. So, and I like extra cherries in mine. I love a maraschino cherry. It's one of my favorites. When I was a kid, my mom used to give us fruit cocktail in the cup, and I've always been this way. I'm a food separator, but I would save the cherries and fruit cocktail for last because I like those best. Also, many of you may or may not know that I don't, when I buy Skittles and I eat the Skittles, I don't eat them all mixed up. I like the colors to go together, like the flavors to go together. So I eat all the flavors and I save the red ones for last because the red ones are my favorite. And I was really, really upset when for a brief period of time, the original flavors, they changed the green Skittle that was lime to green apple. And I'll never forget this because it was right after Halloween and I had gotten into the kids' Halloween candy and I got a bag of Skittles and I put a green Skittle in my mouth and it was green apple. And I like the smell of green apple. I don't like the taste of green apple. And it was just nothing but disappointment in my mouth. And I was so upset. So upset. Mm. Ooh, air fried Skittles. I'm going to have to try that out. Oh, freeze dried. Oh, I've never tried those. Huh. I do have a Instapot that does have like, oh no, that's dehydrated, not freeze dried. My bad. Never mind. I am not a green apple flavor to eat. I like the smell of it.
Reflect that Ms. Simon has rejoined her counsel at council's table. The state is present at their table as well.
Nay made
we need to
a,
get before bringing in the jury.
hold on a second.
Nothing like
Nay made a scent, a Bendy Lou inspired scent called Just Like Heaven. And it is green apple and pineapple. OMG. It smells so good. Hopefully we can get her to bring that back for next year because it was so good. It's one of my favorites. Oh dear. Speaking of, let me go ahead and drop Nadine's link to her wax melts. I'm telling you guys, Nadine has the absolute best wax melts. They're well done. They smell really good. They smell exactly like the description on the website says they smell. They last a long time. They're packaged perfectly and individually packaged. Just for you, it's personalized. And it's those touches, I think, that make a difference. So
And were you able to comply with the court's instructions not to do research or discuss the case? All right, very good.
Were you able to
Mr.
not
Dean,
go
would you
on
like to
random
comment?
Melissa Bray.
expeditions for journeys, quests for Origel? Oh, I'm curious who this is. Could this be? Well, we'll see in a minute. Oh, I think it might be, y'all. Maybe not. Hold on.
The evidence you shall give the court and jury in the trial of this issue shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Step this way, ma'am.
Never mind.
All right, good morning. Mr. Dean.
Oh, I was
Could
right.
you please introduce yourself to the jury?
Hi, I'm Melissa Bray.
And do you live in the Savannah area?
Yes,
Where do you live? Not the street address, but the general area.
This is Origel,
I'm
Miss
off of Highway 17, Okeechobee Road
Misty.
in Azalea.
I'm gonna ask you, I can hear you, but I'm not sure that everybody can.
Okay.
So could you just, closer to the microphone would be good.
Is that good?
Yeah,
Yep.
that's much better. Thank you. Can you,
Yes,
can you repeat the
Origel
answer to that
Misty.
last question? What general area do you live
Highway 17.
in? And you mentioned Ogeechee Road,
Yes, Ogeechee Road,
and then I think you said Azalea as well.
Azalea Trail Park.
Now, how long have you lived there for?
I have lived there for about 4, maybe going on 5 years.
And in those 4, maybe going on 5 years, have you lived in the same residence at Azalea the whole time?
Yes,
Do you, or at some point, did you know the defendant, Miss Simon?
I met her at my job,
And what job was that?
at the job that I used to have, which was Bojangles.
Was she working there as well?
Yes,
And is that how you met her?
yes.
Roughly, how long did y'all work together at the same Bojangles?
Probably around 3 or 4 months, if that.
And do you have any nicknames that you go by?
Yep,
What nickname or nicknames do you have?
Missy,
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 Missy.
exactly.
Anybody ever call you Misty with a T?
No.
Do you remember a time where an FBI agent came out to your house at Azalea to talk to you about when was the last time you had had contact with the defendant?
Yes,
Do you remember that FBI agent's name?
yes.
What was his or her name?
Brad Snyder,
Okay, and where did y'all meet and talk?
he came to my house.
All right, where at your house did y'all interact?
In my parking lot, in the driveway.
Okay, I want you to go back, kind of take yourself back mentally to the day of that conversation, the first conversation you had with Brad, okay?
Mhm.
At that time, how long had it been, roughly, since you had seen the defendant, Miss Simon?
How long had it been since I talked to him the first time in my driveway or at my job, Bojangles at the time?
I mean, where was the first time that you talked?
The first time
to
I met
Brad?
him, and I think Miss Lemons was at my job,
Okay,
Bojangles.
the first time that you talked to them, and thank you for clarifying.
Mhm.
The first time that you talked to them, did they ask you how long it had been or when the last time had been that you saw the defendant?
I think so.
And at that time, about how long had it been since you had last seen her?
I'm guessing roughly around maybe a month or so. Roughly,
It had maybe been roughly a month.
roughly, yeah.
Do you remember telling them it had been like July of 2022 that you last saw her?
Yes,
Okay. And were you telling them the truth at that time? Was that accurate?
yes,
Okay. And that was closer in time than we are now, right?
right.
Okay. What were the circumstances of your last contact with the defendant? First of all, was the time that you were telling them about then, is that the last time you ever had contact with her? I mean, in other words, have you had any contact with her since the police began talking to you?
No.
Okay. So then that was the last time you would have any contact with her?
Yes.
All right. Now, what were the circumstances of that last contact with the defendant? Why did y'all have contact with each other?
Because she came to my house around 12 midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning, asking if we had any money, me and my husband, for gas, because her vehicle stalled on that back road behind me. I can't remember the name of the road right now. And we didn't have any money, but I was going to go to my stepfather's and, not my stepfather's, my father-in-law, and ask for one of his gas cans to see if he had gas in it, and if he didn't, if we could take it up to the Inmark to put gas in it.
And right now you're describing something that occurred in like July of 2022?
Yes.
Okay. So what happened with the gas can?
We got the gas can from our property manager's yard, because we had called her to ask her instead. And she said, yes, there should be one right there in the yard. Went and got it. And me, Leilani, and my husband walked up to Inmark to go get the gas.
And what happened to the gas can from that point?
Of course, when we got there, she said that someone was coming to get her, to take her back to put gas in her vehicle that was on that road. So me and my husband, we left, okay? And I told her that I needed the gas can back.
Sometime after that, did you send her some text messages asking for the gas can back?
Yes, I did.
Did you get a response to those text messages?
I did not get a response at all until actually, no, I did not get a response at all.
Okay, so let me just ask you about that. Was that, those text messages to the defendant asking to get the gas can back, did you ever have any in-person contact with her after that?
No.
Okay, and again, this all happened in like July of 2022.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I would like to approach with what I've marked as, well, let me ask you this. Did you show those text messages to Brad, the FBI agent?
Yes, I did.
Okay, he got a look at them.
Yes, he did.
And did they support what you were saying?
Yes, they did.
Your Honor, I'd like to approach with what I've marked as State's Exhibit 35. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
Okay. Now, is that a Google Maps screenshot showing the route to get to your residence at Azalea Mobile Home Plaza?
Yes, it is.
Does it fairly represent the route that you have to take to get to your place?
Yes, it does.
Your Honor, I would introduce this as State's Exhibit 35.
No objection.
Thank you, Mr. Parse. It is admitted without objection.
All right. Do you see that main road at the top there that I'm highlighting with the little arrow?
Mm-hmm.
Is that Ogeechee Road?
You can say yes or no.
Oh,
The
yes.
court reporter's taking everything down.
Yes.
And that red arrow coming off of Ogeechee Road, does that reflect the turn that you make to get into Azalea?
Yes.
Okay, and is that right next to the Chevron?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Now, this second arrow here, does this represent a right turn that you have to make to get to your house?
Yes, it does.
Do you live on a dead end?
Yes, I do.
Is that lower red arrow showing that right turn there, does that take you onto your dead end?
The lower red arrow? Yes.
This arrow here? All right, so that's a right turn takes you onto the dead end street that you live on, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there any other way to get to your house by car?
No.
One moment, please, Your Honor. Was there ever a time where she came and met up with you in the middle of the night to get Orajel from you?
No.
No? Saying that never happened?
I'm saying it never happened.
No further questions.
Good morning, Ms. Bray.
Good morning.
I want to walk up and look at that map, if you would. As I understand it, this is Ogeechee Road.
Right.
This is I guess that's a left turn. And the second arrow goes down there. Where is your residence in this area?
I am, let's see,
Do you mind showing me up there so everybody can see?
sure. I should be probably somewhere either this or up underneath these trees.
Okay, thank you. And is that a Chevron station that you mentioned?
Yes.
And that, for the record, is that, looks like a big square to me.
Yes.
And you live in the Azalea Mobile Home Park.
Yes, sir.
And you talked about knowing Leilani Simon. Do you know Daniel Youngkin?
No, I do not.
Have you ever hung out with Leilani Simon socially?
No, I have not.
Now, it's now October 2024. And the events that are, important to hear are October 2022. How clearly do you remember what happened back in October 2022 in your life?
Clearly, as in, what do you mean?
Well, who you saw, where you went, dates and times and things like that.
I am not that good with dates and times,
I'm not either.
but events, certain events, just like anybody else, certain events stand out. Considering the fact that I had to send her text message after text message because the gas can was that of my property managers, and I didn't want to get in trouble.
Mhm.
That is going to be something that I remember.
I think those are all the questions I have. Thank you.
Anything further from the state?
No, Your Honor.
Ma'am, you may step down and you are excused.
Why is Leilani mean mugging her other attorney? Look at her. Leilani, what are you doing, lady?
Okay. Mr. Dean, is your other witness ready?
Your Honor, this is going to be a longer witness. I would ask that we take our break now. Of course, okay with that?
Okay, as we discussed. This is going to be at the time that we take the lunch break, ladies and gentlemen.
I agree, Your Honor.
Um,
Thank you. All right. So, they're going to go to lunch. Dietz on the streets has graciously agreed to host the afternoon session of court. Here is Dietz's channel. Let me think about this for a second, though. Who could be the next one that would take a long time? Now, I've heard a couple of different things about Billy Joe Hell potentially testifying. I've heard that she's not going to be testifying, but I've also heard that she is going to be testifying. Dietz thinks FBI agent Snyder which that would take a long time. I'm not sure. I really can't call it because it seems like the way that the defense or the state is presenting their case is mainly like, with the exception of the forensic anthropologist, is presenting their case chronologically. And if you think about it chronologically, they would put Missy on the stand because in the overnight hours between October 4th and October 5th, that's where Leilani said she went to go get the Orajel. And so that makes sense. That's what I think, Queen Bella. Queen Bella says, I think if Billy Joe wasn't testifying, she'd be in the courtroom. Honestly, outside the box with Chloe Joe, okay, so the way that it was stated, which was just in a chat. I mean, I flit around from chat to chat and listen to, and, watch all the things. So, somebody asked, well, why wouldn't she testify? And the answer was that the state and the defense aren't interested in anything that she has to say. And I'm only, saying what I heard, but to me, it didn't make sense because I do think that both the state and the defense are interested in what Billy Joe has to say. I think that what's interesting to me is that they put Danny on the stand, okay? And while they did ask him about he and Leilani being evicted from Billy Joe's house, they didn't go into too much further detail about exactly why, exactly when, and that all that kind of stuff. So I do think that Billy Joe is important in that she lived in the home. Leilani is her daughter. She would know more than Danny Youngkin, for example, the kind of relationship that existed between Leilani and her children, what kind of mother she was, all of those things. So, well, yeah, I mean, she was during the early morning hours of between October 4th and October 5th. Leilani was not at Missy's apartment, or excuse me, Missy's house, getting on her quest for Orajel. She was on the bus with 2 tickets to Pound Town. That's where she really was. And this is another good point. Katie B points out that Billy Joe holds keys to statements made afterwards as well. And so I don't know who's going to be next. Hold on a minute. Dietz is saying something that is important here. Let me hide this current comment. Cat's Eye said that she read in chat last night that Billy Joe is out of town. Let's see. Probably, Trulia. I probably was in the same chat as you, babe. Let me see here. I don't know. Deet says, then we were lied to about her working with the FBI then? I don't know. I guess we're going to have to wait and see. But I want to thank you guys so, so much for being here and supporting the channel and myself. I really appreciate that, and being cool in the chat. You know, very little modding actually has to be done. And that is something that I can only attribute to you guys, the chatters. Yes, JD Wells, Boffville, Pound Town, Boffville. Oh my gosh. I'll see if I can think of some more euphemisms. But yeah, I thank you guys so very, very much for being here. Again, the afternoon session is being graciously hosted by Deets on the Streets, who is a fantastic hostess. And Deets also uses the golf voice, which I love very much, because Deets has like a super soothing voice anyway. But then when she puts on the golf voice, I can hardly stand it. I love it. So we're all going over to Deets on the Streets channel. Let me put that link for you in the chat. I've added Deets to the Nightbots, and her link should be coming up shortly. And that's the plan, you guys. Also, if you're interested in catching up with Sarah Boone, I will be going over her motions hearing tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. As soon as I'll schedule the live a little bit later, because sometimes you know how YouTube be. Sometimes I just want to give out the send out the notifications, but that's the plan for tonight. I will see all of you over in Deets on the Streets chat. Thank you all so much for being here, and I hope you have a great rest of your afternoon, and I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.